I, Hermione, travel through time to Marvel to be the savior. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326 Marvel Hulk. Here I come. In the Hogwarts boys' dormitory, the two young men, full of vigor and vitality, did not fight each other because of the verbal conflict, which was already good. In another large room in the Hogwarts castle, the headmaster and professors of Hogwarts gathered here. Most of them had gloomy faces and looked like they had a lot on their minds. Tonight was destined to be not very peaceful. Life is not satisfactory for 8 out of 10 times, which is probably what it means. After all, the boys' dormitory was just a small fight, so there was no need to give a close-up of the scenery outside the window. But the principal's office here was a big scene, and the scenery outside the window must be described. The rain at night made the whole world depressing, and at the same time, the rain was mixed with thunder and lightning, which made it even more unpeaceful. In Dumbledore's office, the bigwigs of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry gathered together, and they were going to hold a small meeting together. The focus of the discussion in the meeting was, of course, the troublemaker Mr. Harry Potter. "We can't go on like this, Albus. First the Dark Mark, and then this." Professor McGonagall, as the vice-headmaster, first gave her opinion. Professor Snape and Mad-Eye Moody were also on the side. Other Hogwarts professors, such as the giant Hagrid and the herbology professor, were not present and could not attend the small meeting tonight. "What do you suggest, Minerva?" Dumbledore looked at Professor McGonagall, and the two of them were quite intimate with each other. Professor McGonagall said seriously, "End this matter immediately, and don't let Potter participate in the competition." Professor McGonagall was undoubtedly a true wise man. She arranged for Harry Potter to join the Gryffindor Quidditch team as a seeker, and Harry Potter won several championships in one fell swoop. Later, it was also she who handed the magical artifact, Time Converter, that could change the rules of time to Miss Hermione, which successfully paved the way for Miss Hermione Granger to become the Minister of Magic with the Mudblood gene in the later period of the original play. Now, Professor McGonagall felt that the pedantic Barty Crouch, the director of the executive department of the Ministry of Magic, was simply confused and must be changed. Her proposal was undoubtedly a wise move again. However, she alone could not decide whether the proposal would be passed this time. Barty has said that the rules cannot be changed. Sure enough, Headmaster Dumbledore raised objections. In fact, every time Harry Potter became famous, there was Headmaster Dumbledore behind him. He intended to let Harry Potter come forward to solve all problems. Dumbledore seemed to have glimpsed the secret and knew that Harry Potter was the male protagonist. His aura was unparalleled. Therefore, as the headmaster of Hogwarts, he must create a stage for Harry Potter to the greatest extent. Let Barty go to hell. And his rules. When did you start to cater to the Ministry of Magic? Professor McGonagall did not understand Dumbledore's decision at this moment. As an old witch, her sixth sense told her that Dumbledore was confused this time and he was playing with fire. Dumbledore's bets were successful in the Philosopher's Stone incident, the Millennium Chamber of Secrets incident, and the Azkaban Dementor incident. But will God really let him continue to succeed? No, God will not favor a person who will have a smooth life. He will inevitably float and sink like the waves. Headmaster, I personally find it hard to believe. Professor Snape finally had a chance to appear on screen, and he began to perform hard. This kind of thing is purely coincidental, but if we really want to know the truth, maybe we should let it continue to develop for the time being. Professor Snape's line sounded very tongue-twisting. On the surface, he seemed to support Professor McGonagall's statement, but in fact, his opinion was very different from Professor McGonagall's. Perhaps once, even during the Dementor incident last year, Professor Snape was very conservative like Professor McGonagall, and felt that Harry Potter, who was still a child, should not be allowed to take risks. But what was the result? Harry Potter was the child of destiny. He successfully slapped Professor Snape's old face again and again, allowing him to see what the protagonist's halo was. So this year he changed his mind and decided to let Harry Potter take the lead and take risks like Dumbledore. But Professor Snape was just like what Sirius Black said. Professor Snape's choice was the same as his innate stupidity, and he never made the right choice. Of course, this time was also included. Together with Dumbledore, he almost caused a disaster. Dumbledore had actually already made up his mind, but he still wanted to hear the opinions of other professors. At this moment, Dumbledore was lying on a glowing pool. His eyes were deep. His old white beard and white hair were trying to peek into the future through this glowing pool full of magical energy. Professor McGonagall was stunned when she heard that Professor Snape's words were completely different from her own. What? Let it go and use him as bait? Potter is a child, not a piece of meat. Dumbledore seemed not to want to listen to Professor McGonagall's womanly talk anymore. He directly announced, "I agree with Snape. Aladdin, you take good care of Harry." Dumbledore continued to make arrangements. Mad-Eye Moody had been laughing secretly. He had not spoken just now, and now he heard Dumbledore calling his name, and immediately replied, "Well, that's no problem. Don't let him notice. He is already unsafe enough. Severe tests are waiting for him." Dumbledore showed his helplessness at this time. As a legendary wizard, he has played supporting roles too many times in the Harry Potter series, and this time is probably the same. He took out his wand and placed it on his temple. Then, he took out a glowing memory and placed it in the glowing pool. I hope my choice is right. Although Dumbledore is a legendary wizard, he is not a god, and he has no way to perfectly predict the future. And in the depths of this mysterious glowing pool, in addition to the constant flashing of Harry Potter's memories, there is also Hermione Granger, the lady wizard who seems to be always low-key, quiet and gentle in Hogwarts. Perhaps they are the ones who can truly change the future. Tonight, whether it is the meeting in Dumbledore's office or the quarrel in the boys' dormitory, Miss Hermione thinks that they are all boring things. If you make a summary, it is trivial matters. The next day, the sun was shining, and generally after the wind and rain, there will be a great day. But Miss Hermione had just stretched and had not yet begun to welcome a new day at Hogwarts when a green glass bottle of beverage fell from the sky. Miss Hermione was quick to catch it. In an instant, the expression on her snow-white, tender, and beautiful face changed under the sunlight outside the window. Oops, this beverage bottle is wrong. Sure enough, the system did it again. This beverage bottle is not from Hogwarts, but from another world. A powerful force of crossing instantly sucked Miss Hermione in. Miss Hermione is a lady and still cares about her image. She changed her clothes in time, and then quickly took out the time converter to adjust time. After the crossing, Hermione dressed as a witch and returned to the Marvel world 10 hours ago. Because this time the system brought Hermione with a beverage bottle, not a door key with accurate coordinates and a time-space gate. So Hermione is currently in the beverage factory where the Hulk is in the second movie of the Marvel world. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 327 Robert Bruce Banner. The Marvel map is very large. Although the Hulk, Robert Bruce Banner and Tony Stark Iron Man are on the same planet, they had no connection at first. If there were no special circumstances, Miss Hermione would not have needed to let the two know each other in advance. The stories of the Hulk and Iron Man are somewhat different. The causes and consequences of Tony Stark and how he became Iron Man are relatively detailed, but the Hulk is different. He was mutated by gamma rays when he first came. When Miss Hermione found him, he already had the power of the Hulk like Superman. Hermione just crossed over and did not need to think about what to do next, because the light screen of the system options has appeared in front of her. Option 1. Go to Tony Stark Iron Man for afternoon tea, and go to the ballroom to dance together. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with a pair of crystal shoes. Option 2. Find the Hulk and tell him that you have a way to help him calm down his anger. Completing the task will reward you with basic attributes +1. Option 3. Try being a villain in Marvel. You are required to destroy a city first, and you will be rewarded with $1 coin after completing the task. Option 3 is very charming as a villain. For $1 coin, destroying a city is definitely the treatment that only the ultimate villain in the Avengers movie can have. It's just a makeup task. Unless Hermione's temperament changes drastically and she becomes obsessed that day, she will not consider such a high-risk job as a villain. Option 1. You can go to Iron Man for afternoon tea. Choose a place with a beautiful environment and enjoy the comfort of life, but forget about dancing. It seems that we can only go to Robert Bruce Banner. Banner is working in the factory at the moment. When Hermione found him, he looked no different from an ordinary person, and maybe even looked thin. Thinking about Robert Bruce Banner's life experience, it can be said that there are ups and downs. He was once a scientist admired by everyone, had a very beautiful girlfriend, and lived a life that ordinary people could not envy every day. Of course, compared with the playboy Tony Stark, it is naturally much worse, but Robert Bruce Banner is a leader among ordinary people, and his personality is somewhat different from that of the super-rich second-generation Iron Man. As the saying goes, the rich rely on technology, the poor rely on mutation. In the Batman series, it is also the case. Batman's superpower is the ability of money. Hermione did not disturb Robert Bruce Banner from working. She was cautious in doing things. First, she observed the situation of the beverage factory and took a walk around the city with unique geological features outside. Hermione, who was invisible and flying, could not be seen by others. Learning from the wrong operation when she first crossed Marvel, Miss Hermione avoided the uncontrollable butterfly effect again. Iron Man Tony Stark was killed by Hermione several times. If the Hulk Robert Bruce Banner came again, it would be a headache. Marvel is a fairy tale world for adults, and the rules here are much more terrifying than the Harry Potter series and the fairy tale world of children. A single move can affect the whole body. If it is not done well, it will backfire. This will test Hermione's careful operation even more. Robert Bruce Banner is also very busy in this city. He is a fugitive because he does not want to cooperate with the military. He works during the day and discusses how to improve the problem of physical mutation with a mysterious netizen named Mr. Blue through an encrypted computer at night. Robert Bruce Banner is still too naive. When he was an ordinary scientist, he was deceived by Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross and thought it was normal scientific research, but in fact it was dangerous military biological and chemical weapons research. Not to mention being deceived, he almost died in the Gamma Bomb. Even if he survived by chance, he has now become a Hulk monster who cannot control his anger. The original movie is called The Invincible Hulk, which is enough to show how powerful he is, but after Robert Bruce Banner changed into the Hulk state, his destructive power is also quite amazing. Banner, who is full of peace in his heart, does not want to hurt others, so he chooses to forbear and chooses to escape. And his second naivety can also be said to be a way out. He chose to believe Mr. Blue, whom he had never met on the internet. He provided Mr. Lan with almost all of his information and intelligence, and even drew out his blood and mailed it to the other party for research, hoping to get a way to heal his body. There is a reason why this movie failed at the box office, because there is a big difference between Robert Bruce Banner's thoughts and Tony Stark Iron Man's thoughts. One is that he has the power to destroy the world, but he can't control it, and at the same time he doesn't want to have this power. It's too ordinary and too escapist. As for Iron Man, although he was a playboy in the first half of his life, he later had a great enlightenment. In the original play, he was willing to take on the responsibility of guarding peace. He will use his own strength and even want to improve his strength so that he, as a mortal, can be on par with gods. In this comparison, Robert Bruce Banner's thoughts are too niche. He only wants to escape from the military and only wants to become an ordinary person. Of course, his idea cannot be said to be wrong, but he lacks his own ideas and the responsibility of being a superhero. However, there is no way. The conditions do not allow it. Tony Stark can control the Iron Man armor, but Robert Bruce Banner's Hulk cannot be controlled. These two settings also determine that Robert Bruce Banner cannot be as independent and chic as Iron Man. Miss Hermione sympathizes with Robert Bruce Banner, but does not feel sorry for him. After all, Robert Bruce Banner is still lucky compared to the truly pitiful people. When Hermione came back again, she saw a very beautiful girl in this seemingly ordinary beverage factory. This girl can't be said to be white and beautiful. She has a healthy wheat-colored skin, a good figure, and looks very good. It's a different style from Miss Hermione, a slender lady. Of course, Miss Hermione has a beauty attribute bonus, which ordinary beauties don't have. Therefore, ordinary beauties are indeed very beautiful, but they can't be perfect. According to the setting of the movie, beautiful girls are generally very predestined with the male protagonist. The same is true for the chick in the factory. Although she did not actively pursue Robert Bruce Banner, she would look at Banner from time to time. After all, Banner looks ordinary, but if you study carefully, you will find that he will be a very special man. There are gangsters and people of unknown quality everywhere, especially the more backward and the less civilized a place is, the more bad people there are. In civilized places, in addition to moral constraints, there are also laws and regulations. In backward places, murder and arson are usually not controlled, otherwise, they can't control it well. Several ugly gangsters surrounded them. Although Robert Bruce Banner was not particularly handsome, his appearance was acceptable. Those undeserving gangsters were crooked and had sharp noses and monkey cheeks. It is estimated that the director deliberately found such actors. Girl, let's have a drink together in the evening. The wheat-skinned beauty directly refused. I have something to do in the evening. Don't be shameless. Do you think we are asking you? We are ordering you. The gangsters are very arrogant and urgently need superheroes to control them. Chapter 328 Hulk Banner and the God from Hogwarts. Robert Bruce Banner didn't want to meddle in other people's business. Hermione's low profile is her character, while Banner's low profile has to be low-key. Once he is high profile, people will suffer, and it is out of control. But the girl's eyes for help really made Banner unable to sit idly by. Hey, I don't want to go. As a man, I should be a gentleman. Banner intended to convince people with reason, but the effect was not obvious. When a scholar met a soldier, he couldn't make sense. The gangsters are certainly not soldiers, and they don't follow the rules or reason. Go up and give Robert Bruce Banner a few slaps. Boy, mind your own business. Banner's mouth twitched, and he endured it and said, "Don't make me angry. The consequences are serious." Hey, you kid. Several gangsters surrounded him at the same time. Seeing that the problem was about to get serious, Miss Hermione was about to take action, such as a magic to make all the hand bones and leg bones of this group of gangsters disappear at the same time. This magic is very simple. The famous Defense Against the Dark Arts professor had used it on Harry Potter, and as a result, Harry's arm turned directly into rubber. Hermione's magic can make the arm bones and leg bones of these gangsters disappear at the same time. Without the same magic skills, it is almost impossible to cure. At this time, a factory manager who looked fat stood up, and the noisy situation below naturally attracted his attention. The gangsters have been arrogant for a long time. As a factory manager, he can only turn a blind eye to it. But today he had to step in. He held a metal tool in his hand, knocked on the railing, and scolded, "If you want to fight, get out and fight. Don't make trouble in my factory." These gangsters usually spend their days in the factory, so they also give some face to the factory manager. "Boy, you wait. You ruin our good things today, and you will be in trouble tomorrow." Then the gangsters left with cursing. There is plenty of time to pick up girls, and today is mainly to give face to the factory manager. Miss Hermione did not make a move. After all, it was easy to make a move, but it was not easy to cause uncontrollable and unknown events in the future. "Thank you." The beautiful girl with wheat-colored skin looked into Robert Bruce Banner's eyes. Banner had just been slapped in the face by a gangster, and his heartbeat was accelerating. He was wearing a watch that detected his pulse, so he could check it at any time. He said, "It's okay, you should be careful of those guys in the future." After that, he left directly. Banner was a normal man. He also saw that as long as he took the initiative, he would definitely be able to develop a relationship with this beautiful girl. It was a pity that Banner did not look down on the civilian birth of the beautiful girl, but his physical condition made it impossible for him to go on a date like a normal person. If his heartbeat was too fast, he would also be unable to control his transformation into the Hulk. By then, it would be too late to regret. The beautiful girl looked at Banner's back. After all, They were not destined to be together. Robert Bruce Banner returned home and began to take a cold shower, watching his watch to detect his heart rate. He did not come out until it was close to stable, and then he turned on the computer, had a simple meal, and chatted with the netizen, Mr. Blue. Miss Hermione felt that she could show up. After all, she had been observing for most of the day, and her task was not yet completed. Tasks require skills and wisdom. Robert Bruce Banner just lowered his head to look at the computer, but when he looked up, he saw the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life. Her hair was like a painting. Her skin was so tender that it was unreal under the sunset. Her big eyes were as clear as crystal. Her long eyelashes, her perfect figure, her charming temperament, and her mysterious smile outlined by her naughty mouth, all of them shocked Robert Bruce Banner. He even rubbed his eyes, and couldn't believe that he would see such a perfect beauty in reality. Even in his dreams, he had never dreamed of such a beautiful and mysterious girl, until Robert Bruce Banner was surprised to find that he was not hallucinating, and a beautiful woman actually appeared in his simple house. Hermione said, "I am a god. I have a way to help you suppress your emotions and heart rate." Hermione went straight to the point. As a god, she should be straightforward. If she chatted with Robert Bruce Banner for no reason, she would be a godless person. Robert Bruce Banner had heard of someone claiming to be a god for the first time in his life. Is this person mentally ill? What a pity, he looks so beautiful. Banner was still graceful and did not mock him at the first time, but Hermione could see that he did not believe it. It was time to show it. Hermione waved her hand and the two flew up at the same time. They floated directly into the air from the window, overlooking the entire city below. The city here is very unique. There are no high-rise buildings, but low-rise bungalows, and from the top of the mountain to the bottom. This Robert Bruce Banner panicked. He had never been so panicked in his life. Even when he turned into the Hulk, he was in a violent state and his brain was not clear. But he is awake now. Goddess Hermione took Banner to fly higher and higher until he could reach out and touch the white clouds. Hermione stopped and asked, "How many beats is your heart now?" With such a terrifying scene, Banner's heartbeat certainly soared. "I said, I am God. I have a way to suppress the Hulk blood in your body." She actually knows her secret? Could it be that she is really a god? If it is not a god, how can it fly out of thin air? However, before Banner could think more, Hermione retracted her delicate jade hand, and the next moment, Banner fell straight from midair like a human-shaped cannonball. With such a fierce reaction, the surging blood in Robert Bruce Banner's body began to turn from red to green. That's right, Banner can no longer control himself and is about to start transforming. Banner didn't notice that Miss Hermione's landing speed was also very fast. She didn't even use a wand. The power of magic was to invade Robert Bruce Banner's body, like an invisible big hand, instantly pinching Banner's heart. At the same time, the coldness of death flowed into every blood vessel of Robert Bruce Banner. Hermione thought of many ways, such as the Magneto bracelet she recently got, which controlled Banner's transformation into the Hulk through magnetism, or used the Sharingan contact lens to control it through illusion. Even the Buddha's palm can kill him with one palm. The sword drawing technique can also be used to chop him with one knife, and it can be done once and for all. However, in the end, Hermione decided to use magic. Not only is magic the power that Hermione has studied and studied the longest. At the same time, Miss Hermione's magic is profound, and she has almost learned all the forbidden techniques of Hogwarts, as well as the elementary magic book and intermediate magic book awarded by the system. Use magic to curb the blood riot in Robert Bruce Banner's body. Don't say it, it's quite effective. Banner fainted, maybe because Hermione was too harsh. He should be gentler next time. Congratulations on completing option 2, reward basic attribute +1, mission completed. As a god, should remain mysterious. Hermione threw the unconscious Robert Bruce Banner back to his own room, then used the door key to open the door of time and space and return to Hogwarts. When there is another mission next time, Miss Hermione will come back to explain to Banner. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 329 Daily Prophet Rita Skeeter. Back at Hogwarts, Miss Hermione skillfully turned off the time converter just like getting dressed, brushing teeth and washing face every morning, letting the time here return to normal. The stories here are also very exciting, as long as you feel it carefully. The plainness is full of charm. Under the bright sunshine, the ancient castle of Hogwarts is located in the barren mountains and lakes. It is very suitable for taking pictures of beautiful scenery. Even if you open your mind, it must be good to open a wedding photo site here. Of course, you can change the background music, use a gloomy and terrifying filter, and shoot a horror movie. Art is about creation. Thinking has no boundaries. Because the Goblet of Fire Triwizard Tournament is a well-known student wizard project, it still attracts a lot of attention from the outside world. The Daily Prophet came to Hogwarts for an interview. The contestants who were interviewed and photographed were all excited. After all, this is a rare glorious moment in their lives that can make the front page headlines. Of course, last year Sirius Black bought the hot search of the Daily Prophet without spending any money, and it dominated the list for several months in a row. But the front page headline of being wanted in Azkaban is naturally not a glorious thing. The warriors of the Triwizard Tournament are different. They are all the rising stars of magic schools. The attention of all, the Daily Prophet also sent the famous reporter Miss Rita Skeeter, who is the best at digging out the privacy of the players. Rita Skeeter is a very awesome old woman. Even ordinary news can become an eye-catching hit after she digs it out and adds fuel to the fire. At this moment, in a loft with a good environment and good lighting, the 4 contestants of the Triwizard Tournament posed for the Daily Prophet to take pictures. What a charming group of 4. Rita Skeeter wore a pair of jeweled glasses and a dazzling green dress. She was very thin, but a little sharp-nosed and monkey-faced. She was obviously dressed very delicately, but no matter how you look at her, she is an old woman who is very awkward. "Hello, my name is Rita Skeeter." The old woman introduced herself and ran over to shake hands one by one. From her slightly sharp voice, it can be heard that she is not an easy woman to deal with. Reporters of the Daily Prophet, this newspaper is well known to everyone, but you are less well known. You are the news today. The old woman Rita Skeeter reached out and touched the face of the female contestant Fleur Delacour. At this moment, Fleur Delacour was sitting on a chair. If Fleur Delacour stood up, the old woman Rita Skeeter would have to tiptoe to touch the face of the tall Fleur Delacour. What kind of story is hidden under this rosy face? The old woman Rita Skeeter seemed like a hunter, observing her prey. Which one had delicious meat? Fleur Delacour was obviously not the best prey, and Rita Skeeter touched the arm of the Durmstrang warrior Victor Crumb unceremoniously. "Look, how many secrets are wrapped in this strong muscle." This old woman reporter looks frivolous and shameless, but in fact she is such a person. Whether courage sleeps in curly hair. In short, how to be a warrior. Wait for me to report with all my strength, and my readers are also waiting to see. So who will speak first? Hogwarts warrior Cedric Diggory is a handsome boy, and the old woman Rita Skeeter is very satisfied with her prey today. She has a vicious look, and after scanning around, she finally landed on Harry Potter's face. Let's start with the youngest. Okay, let's decide. Harry Potter didn't have a good premonition in his heart, and this old woman gave him a bad feeling. The two came to a small house nearby. As a wizard reporter, she naturally knew magic. Rita Skeeter's magic was a suspended notebook and an automatic writing quill. As a reporter, she is still very professional, but her character is not good. It's a very warm little house. Rita Skeeter found the words to make the atmosphere of the first exchange and interview between the two in the little house better. However, Harry Potter is a straight man, he said bluntly. This is a broom closet. Yes, it's dirty and messy, not warm at all. The bubble of fantasy was broken, returning to the cruel reality. The old woman Rita Skeeter didn't have a good first impression of Harry Potter, a boy with no emotional intelligence. The petty old woman began to say sharply, "Then you should get used to it soon. You don't mind if I use a shorthand quill?" Harry glanced at the shorthand quill next to him. This is a magical quill that can turn some very ordinary language into exaggerated and unrealistic sentences and record them automatically. No, Harry obviously didn't know the power of this shorthand quill. "Tell me, Harry, at this moment, a 12-year-old boy, the old woman Rita Skeeter began to ask questions. "Sorry, I'm 14 years old," Harry quickly corrected. The old woman Rita Skeeter was unmoved. She continued to talk to herself. "The opponents you are going to challenge are 3 other students. They are not only more mature than you mentally, but also master spells that you dare not even think about. Are you worried?" Harry did not understand the old woman Rita Skeeter's routine. He answered carefully, "I don't know. In fact, I haven't thought about it." Harry noticed that the shorthand quill had begun to write automatically at a very fast speed. It was amazing. It was really a specialization. The wizarding world was wonderful. "Don't worry about the pen." The old woman Rita Skeeter wanted Harry Potter's attention to hit her here. At the same time, she didn't want Harry to see the absurd and unrealistic content recorded by the shorthand quill. "Of course, you are not an ordinary 12-year-old boy." The old woman's unrepentant words undoubtedly made Harry frown again and remind him, 14 years old. "You have a legendary life experience. Do you think it is the trauma in the past that makes you eager to sign up for this dangerous competition?" The old woman began to attack. She knew exactly what readers like to read. The readers of the Daily Prophet do not need the most realistic and boring reports. What they need is excitement and news that breaks the conventional lower limit. Undoubtedly, in the Triwizard Tournament, the regular news is Victor Crumb, Fleur Delacour and Cedric Diggory. They are too regular. Although they are indeed excellent, there is nothing to see. But Harry Potter is different. He is a treasure that needs to be excavated and processed. The real age of 14 years old is even more exciting than 12 years old. It is exciting to think about it. A 12-year-old boy wizard is in front of 3 17-year-old warriors. Oh my god. There are too many news to talk nonsense. Harry is not stupid. He has sensed the real purpose of the old woman Rita Skeeter's interview with him. Harry does not want to hype himself up for fame. He does not need this. He is the representative of justice, the embodiment of justice. He must correct this mistake. "No, I didn't sign up," Harry said firmly. "I'd be surprised if I didn't sign up." The old woman Rita Skeeter did not give him any face at all, and even mocked. Rebellious little boys are also very cute, as if she felt that she had exposed her bad taste. The old woman Rita Skeeter immediately said to the shorthand feather pen, "Cross this sentence." Harry couldn't stand this aggressive old woman. However, the old woman Rita Skeeter hadn't used her big move yet. "How do you think your parents would feel if they were still alive? Proud of you or worried about you?" To put it nicely, you just want others to pay attention to you. To put it bluntly, you are looking for death. Chapter 330 Heaven and Earth are unkind and treat all things as straw dogs. The old woman Rita Skeeter is too arrogant. She deserves to be punished. That's right. Our heroine, the peerless beauty Miss Hermione, has been in this room all the time, not because she is curious and likes to join in the fun, but because of the system option task. Miss Hermione's plug-in system likes to join in the fun, where there are wonderful stories and excitement to watch. It will set off a task to let Hermione come, but the system is also very humane and gives 3 options, and will not force the heroine, and these 3 options are often likened. 1. Eat 2. Eat Northwest Wind. 3. Eat 9 meals in 3 days, then ask you what you want to choose. There is no way, unless you either want to be a funny person and eat Northwest Wind, or want to be a warrior who goes against the will of heaven and eat 9 meals in 3 days. Then you can only be a normal person and eat honestly. So, unless Miss Hermione is in a bad mood, most of the time, she is trapped by the system option task routine and comes to almost the designated task location. At this moment, the invisible Hermione looked at the old woman Rita Skeeter, who spoke rudely to Harry, and a transparent light screen popped up in front of her. Option 1. Evil people need evil people to grind. Pour sulfuric acid into the mouth of the old woman Rita Skeeter, so that she will never say sarcastic words again. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, Evil, +1. Option 2. Just look at the scenery. There are so many sufferings in the world. The world is unkind, and treating all things as straw dogs is the great truth of the world. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, Philosophy, +1. Option 3. I don't hurt people, but I won't let bad people have an easy time. Use the magnetism of Magneto's bracelet to quietly break the shorthand quill of the old woman Rita Skeeter. Complete the task and get the basic attribute +1. These three options are interesting. Human nature is evil, so humans have to learn kindness from childhood. Option 1, being a big evil person is cool and refreshing. No one in the world is as vicious as me. The worst people will tremble when they see me. Being a big devil is cool, but that is only a momentary pleasure, not a lifetime one. Little Lady Hermione still hopes that she can live a relatively normal life. Option 2, heaven and earth are not kind, and treat all things as straw dogs. This sentence comes from the famous book Tao Te Ching. This sentence actually has two philosophical thoughts. 1. It means literally, God is not kind, and only treats all things as lifeless tributes. 2. In fact, it can also be deeply explored, that is, another meaning, heaven and earth treat all things the same, not particularly good to anyone, nor particularly bad to anyone, and everything develops naturally. Therefore, if Hermione ignores it, it is actually in line with the way of heaven. The great way is simple, and the mystery is very profound. However, although Miss Hermione is as beautiful as a fairy, she thinks she is a normal person. She doesn't want to be a big villain in her life, and she doesn't want to be God and ignore everything. She does whatever she wants, and she does whatever she thinks is appropriate. She doesn't talk about big principles, but she doesn't violate the bottom line of human nature. Therefore, option 3 seems more appropriate. Option 1, pouring sulfuric acid, is still a bit too much. Option 2, to stand aside and watch, is also too empty. Option 3, to give a small punishment without exposing oneself, is the most suitable approach for Ms. Hermione's character. The system option is also very smart. There are many ways to destroy the shorthand quill of the old woman Rita Skeeter, but it requires the power of Magneto, not magic. Because no matter how profound the magic is, there are traces to follow. But the power of the Marvel Magneto, even if the old woman Rita Skeeter searches her head, she can't find it. Miss Hermione just put the Magneto silver bracelet on her wrist, and Harry Potter here, facing the aggressiveness of the old woman Rita Skeeter, he did not get angry. Maybe Harry has really grown up and knows when to lose his temper and when not to lose his temper. Although Harry is indeed very angry, he knows that the more angry he is, the more things the old woman in front of him will have to write. Then, Harry Potter's image in tomorrow's Daily Prophet will be even more unbearable. Now, the smartest thing to do is to stop the loss in time, rather than lose your temper. Harry was in a good mood to correct the shorthand quill beside him in time. My eyes are not flashing with the shadow of ghostly past events. What kind of adjectives are these? Harry is also full of them. However, the shorthand quill, like the old woman Rita Skeeter, ignored Harry Potter's resentment and continued to write unrealistic content as it pleased. At this time, Miss Hermione, the host of the Savior system, began to work. She was invisible, but she just hooked her finger slightly. The next moment, the terrifying magnetic force directly compressed the magic prop shorthand quill into a ball of scrap metal. With a click, the magical shorthand quill even smoked directly on the spot and broke. Rita Skeeter was shocked. Harry Potter was also stunned. Is this the legendary retribution? It seems that God still has a conscience. Oh my God, my little baby, what happened to you? The old woman Rita Skeeter finally couldn't hold back her image and began to panic. It was not because the shorthand quill was so expensive, but because of the long-term relationship that was in cahoots with each other. The old woman Rita Skeeter was sarcastic and the shorthand quill helped the evil. The two together turned many news upside down. In order to attract attention, conscience and morality were abandoned. Don't do this, don't leave me. Without you, how can I do news in the future? Harry Potter smiled, and he said without any sympathy, Miss Rita Skeeter, I think your news in the future should be positive, so that your shorthand quill may get better. The old woman Rita Skeeter gnashed her teeth in anger, but she didn't have time to say anything more to Harry Potter now. She used magic to repair her shorthand quill, but found that she couldn't do it at all. It was as if a force she had never seen destroyed the inside. Damn, what's going on? Miss Hermione kept her merits and fame hidden and left in a daze. Her estimation was correct. Marvel had another exciting story waiting for her to watch. Miss Hermione came to the Hogwarts Great Hall, just after eating the familiar food she had eaten for 3 or 4 years. A mission popped up from the Marvel world. Hermione simply wiped her mouth with a tissue, then held a door key and teleported directly to the depths of the dark forest. There was a big spider that didn't know whether to live or die, and planned to attack Hermione. Miss Hermione hadn't taken off her magneto bracelet yet. With a slight raise of her hand, the minerals in the big spider's body were controlled, and then the whole body exploded and died. Hermione left the big spider's body without caring at all. She opened the door of time and space, adjusted the time converter, and teleported to the Marvel Hulk. Not much time had passed for the Hulk. He was in a bad situation at the moment. He had just met a goddess yesterday. The goddess used the power of magic to directly curb the Hulk's wild power in his body. Hulk Banner was excited and felt that he was saved. But when he woke up today, he found that no matter how he called, God never appeared again. Everything that happened yesterday was like a magical dream. What a ridiculous dream. I am a scientist, and I was irradiated by gamma rays and mutated into an uncontrollable Hulk, but I actually believed that there would be God in this world who could save me. New book, please support. Thank you everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331. It turns out that God really exists. As one of the Marvel superheroes, Hulk Banner is definitely not a sentimental person. After all, it is a fast-paced popcorn movie, not a sentimental art film. It's just that not long ago, a beautiful girl who called herself God fell from the sky and went straight to his house without express delivery fees. She turned her hand to make clouds and rain, and showed him what the power of God is. I thought that Banner had met the Savior and could finally end his years of exile, but who would have thought that when he woke up, it was just empty. People who are in despair cannot see the sunlight in the gaps between hundreds of meters of reinforced concrete and soil, because they can better maintain a numb mentality if they can't see it. Once they see hope, there will inevitably be greater despair, like a mountain pouring back. Banner turned into the Hulk and destroyed the world, and he didn't need others to pity him. But his character determined that he was a person in despair, because he had been escaping for many years in order to get rid of his own Hulk state. His attitude is that he doesn't want this power, so the power of the Hulk is no longer the supernatural power that everyone desires for Banner, but a kind of pain that he keeps escaping. It is because of this non-mainstream setting that the movie box office failed. It's like this: I don't want money, I hate money, please take the money away quickly. If Banner's thinking attitude is slightly changed, he is still afraid of the destructive power brought by the transformed Hulk. However, he hid for a few years in order to better control this power, and like Iron Man, use this supernatural power to benefit mankind and defeat evil. Then it will inevitably become a hit movie. If there is an error in the character setting, it will be difficult to change it later. After all, it is easy to change the country, but it is difficult to change one's nature. However, Miss Hermione, the God, came through, and she changed everything that was not good. Perhaps under her influence, the new Hulk Banner will appear strongly. Robert Bruce Banner didn't have much time to be sad. He woke up and just ate a piece of bread, and gave his single dog a piece. There was an abnormal movement outside the door. Although Banner is not a spy, he is very alert, which is similar to Iron Man. Tony Stark, after obtaining superpowers, he can immediately participate in the battle, and his combat experience in all aspects is very balanced. In fact, this is not scientific, but looking for science in the Marvel world is undoubtedly a bit boring. Anyway, even if Robert Bruce Banner does not turn into the Hulk, he is better than the top special forces. Reconnaissance, counter-reconnaissance, combat, etc. are all strong. Exposed. Why was it exposed? Robert Bruce Banner knew that many people came this time and vowed to arrest him. The brain of a scientist is still more detailed, although it is not like some super detective movies that can evolve a whole world in the brain. But Banner soon figured out where the problem was. That's right, once in the factory director asked him to repair the machine, because Robert Bruce Banner was a scientist. In theory, he was very good at repairing machines. Whether it is a course or not, these are not important. In short, Banner is a talent that the factory manager values more. It is also because of this that the factory manager was willing to come forward in the conflict between the gangsters last night. Otherwise, everyone would choose to protect themselves, who would offend the gangsters for no reason, especially since the gangsters have formed a small group. Ordinary people who are doing their duty should be respectful and yielding. There is a way to live a duty, and there is a way to live a strong life. Many times, many people can't tell the difference. A person who wants to live a decent life, makes trouble all day long, gets unlucky, gets beaten, and still complains about everything. Like the beautiful heroine Hermione, she is very good at it. The initial attribute function points are so precious, she points them on low-key. This is the way to live a decent life, strong, just like a gangster group. If you write a novel that is destined to be banned with gangsters as the protagonist, then the gangsters will definitely not be able to keep to themselves, and they must make trouble, bully people, beat people, and even burn, kill, and rob, and do all kinds of evil. After all, there is no turning back when you are a bad guy. If you are a bad guy and still want to be a good person, then you have a problem with your brain. Banner thought of it. That day, his finger was injured and blood dripped down, although he wiped it clean at that time. But who knew that other blood would drip into the drink, and then be shipped to other countries, and then be drunk by unlucky consumers, and then Banner's identity and location would be exposed. Banner's blood is very valuable for research. If Miss Hermione is Dr. Evil, she will definitely draw a few barrels of Banner's blood for experimental research. It must be a very simple research result to create some biochemical monsters at that time. However, if there is no system option task requirement, she will not do this. She still prefers more advanced things, such as magic, time, space, etc., which are quite classy at first glance. Banner probably found the reason why his identity and location were exposed, and the next step was a thrilling escape. In the original movie, he made a rope out of sheets and clothes and climbed down from the back window. It was very smooth to come to the house of a wheat-skinned beauty in the factory downstairs, and couldn't help but kiss her secretly, and said that he was not a bad person. However, Banner was not lucky here, because the special forces who arrested him here were quite powerful. They were waiting outside the window one step ahead, and also sent snipers. Of course, the sniper bullets were not fatal. The bullet was very fast, and it was about to hit Robert Bruce Banner's back. A divine power suddenly appeared, and all the metal around made a wailing sound. That's right, Goddess Hermione took action. Compared with skilled magic, she began to like the power of Magneto's bracelet during the battle. No wonder Magneto is so popular in the movie. His power is really easy to use. As soon as he raised his hand, the metal part of the bullet was controlled and stopped in midair. Robert Bruce Banner looked at the bullet that was close at hand, strangely stopped in midair, and for a while he forgot to think. Hermione didn't want to see Banner break into a private house and kiss a girl. If you can't give others happiness, don't take advantage of them. Hermione, the goddess of justice, wanted to teach Banner to be a man. With a wave of her hand, the power of magic sent Banner directly from upstairs to downstairs. Goddess Hermione was invisible and suspended in the air. Others could not see her. But this amazing scene really shocked Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross, who was sitting in a camouflaged military vehicle. Could it be that Robert Bruce Banner's mutation has been upgraded? Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross did not know that there was a goddess who came through. He mistakenly thought that the magical operation around Banner was from his own power. Although he was shocked, as a lieutenant general, he immediately picked up the microphone and began to order the special forces to continue fighting and must successfully capture him alive. Banner's military research value is too great. Banner had guessed it, and he was ecstatic. It turns out that God really exists. It was not a dream, it was real. Banner saw hope, and his body was full of strength, and he was more energetic to escape. Although he was a small body, he shuttled through the uneven city like a cool run. He hardly needed Ms. Hermione's help. He relied on himself to successfully get rid of all the dozen special forces behind him. Awesome. Chapter 332, Explode. Hulk. Banner is really awesome. The cool escape action is comparable to an action movie. It is hard to believe what he, as a scientist, has done all these years. Goddess Hermione wanted to help him again, but she couldn't. But Robert Bruce Banner didn't think so. He felt that the reason why he escaped so smoothly must be that the omnipotent Goddess helped him. With the protection of God, ordinary people, even special forces soldiers, are not good enough. So, people have great potential. As long as they are given hope, they will burst out with infinite power, and they will firmly believe that this is the power given by God. Hermione watched Banner's performance quietly, and did not take out the door key to take him away directly, because there will be a plot that has been paved in the past. That's right. Banner's internal microcosm exploded and successfully got rid of more than a dozen strong special forces soldiers, but it is easy to invite the King of Hell. But it is difficult to deal with the little ghost. As luck would have it, the gangsters didn't want to go to work today, and a group of people were making trouble on the street. Banner couldn't be invisible, and his legs had already run to the limit. Even if he turned into the Hulk, there was a time limit, not to mention the state of ordinary people. Although he was not exhausted, after getting rid of the group of armed special forces, Banner was indeed physically exhausted. At this time, he met a group of gangsters who had offended the beautiful girl yesterday. Fuck, it's really a narrow road for enemies. Brothers, grab your weapons, let this kid know the consequences of offending us today. A group of gangsters immediately rushed towards Banner with their weapons. Banner was also in a mess. It was really fucked up. There was a tiger in front and a pursuer behind. Fortunately, he was protected by God, otherwise he might have to explain it here today. A group of gangsters were even more awesome than the special forces in the movie. The special forces could only watch Banner escape, but the gangsters in the movie successfully caught Banner and beat him up. Of course, this is not to say that the gangsters are more powerful, but because Banner really has no strength to escape. Human physical strength is limited. The gangsters here may be more ruthless because there is no restriction from the director. They are holding a steel pipe and are about to swing it on the back of Banner's head. When it seems that his head is about to be broken and bleeding, Goddess Hermione lightly threw down a banana peel, and the gangster stepped on it and lost his balance. He fell down all of a sudden, and the steel pipe in his hand hit his face, breaking his nose and bleeding all over his face. Who is so immoral that he throws banana peels everywhere? The gangster cursed angrily. Miss Hermione was invisible and suspended in the air, pointing out, "TSK, you are ignorant. This is not an ordinary banana peel. This is a magical banana peel. No matter who steps on it, they will fall down 100%. After all, this is not the world of Harry Potter. There is no restriction on magic, and the magic which Hermione can use it at will. Even lions and elephants will fall down if they step on the banana peel she threw. Magic is so yids." Banner was originally shocked and broke into a cold sweat. He really had no other choice, unless he turned into the Hulk immediately. Just now, he was running away in the city like Parker, which consumed too much physical strength. Unexpectedly, the gangster was also an adult, but he would slip on a banana peel. It seems that this matter is not simple. It must be the behavior of God. Thinking back to the first time I saw God, her face was so beautiful that it overwhelmed the whole city. Indeed, the goddess did not look particularly old, so it was understandable that she would have a naughty mentality. But there was more than one gangster. Just after one gangster was defeated, the second one came up again. This time he took a car repair wrench. As a car mechanic, it was reasonable for him to carry a wrench with him. This time the gangster was smart and hit Robert Bruce Banner's leg directly. As long as Banner's leg was injured, he would not be able to run away. However, a piece of watermelon peel appeared strangely on the ground. What a misfortune! Ah! With a scream, the gangster slid more than 10 meters away on the banana peel, and directly hit the electric pole on the roadside. It was miserable. The gangsters were stunned. They had never encountered such a weird thing in their lives. In the past, when gangsters fought, there were indeed some unexpected situations. But today's accident was too subtle. Banner laughed happily like a child. If he was not worried that the special forces behind him would arrive, he would definitely stop and taunt the gangsters. It would be good to satisfy his mouth. Banner continued to run wildly. The gangsters behind him did not believe in evil and continued to chase him with a roar. Of course, they could not help but spit out foul language, until Banner escaped to the beverage factory. The climax of the plot began to officially unfold. The gangsters were very familiar with this place and soon surrounded Banner. At the same time, the sound of military vehicles came from outside. It seemed that the special forces would not let Banner go, especially Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross, who had been looking for Robert Bruce Banner for several years and now finally had a clue, was absolutely not allowed to be thrown off by Banner's Parker so easily. In a time of crisis, Miss Hermione suddenly used magic to freeze the thugs who were going to beat Banner. Yes, Banner was not wrong. The thugs who were just waving and cursing were suddenly all frozen. Hermione did this for a reason, because the dialogue box popped up in front of her. Option 1. Use magic to forcibly stimulate the Hulk power in Banner's body, and complete the task to reward basic attributes +2. Option 2. Don't make a move, I'm just here to watch the show, and complete the task to reward 1 bag of spiced melon seeds. Option 3. Drag Mom, it's boring. Just make a move and instantly kill all the thugs and those pursuers, leaving them dead all over the ground. Complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, Ruthless, +1. It seems that there are 3 options, but in fact only one is reliable. Option 2 is simple, but 1 bag of melon seeds, really have to be a spectator. Option 3, again, is a villain style, neat and tidy, very satisfying, but also very troublesome. Let's go with option 1. In the original play, Banner was beaten, and then triggered the passive transformation into the Hulk. I feel that this setting is a bit troublesome. If Hermione is the director, she will arrange for Banner to bite his finger, and the moment he bites his finger, he will violently transform, and add some special effects around him. Forget it, it's quite second year. The Hulk here is already very fierce, and does not need special effects. Since Hermione is going to take action, those gangsters seem to be in the way, so Hermione casts a spell and they are collectively fixed. This scene is very weird. In the eyes of Robert Bruce Banner, it is simply amazing. In front of the empty space, Miss Hermione's peerless face is revealed. Of course, Miss Hermione will not be funny enough to only show her head. It's like a horror movie. This kind of thing can only be done by Harry Potter with an invisible cloak. Miss Hermione's appearance is of course cool. God. This was the second time he had seen this god face to face, and Banner became so nervous that he didn't know what to say. Hermione said, "As a god, I can help you, but the real problem needs to be solved by you yourself. Do you understand what I mean?" As she spoke, without waiting for Robert Bruce Banner to answer, Miss Hermione raised her slender hand, spread her white fingers, and mysterious magical energy instantly poured into Banner's body. The next moment, Banner's heart began to beat wildly, and his blood began to deteriorate. Then his eyes expanded, and his pupils turned directly into the green color of a beast. Banner's body was also expanding wildly. The green skin on his body could not only withstand bullets, but even small missiles would not be damaged when they exploded on it. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 333 Who will compete? Robert Bruce Banner's expression revealed a complex one, and his eyes also revealed his confusion, shock, and incomprehension. He thought that God would help him get rid of it, help him become an ordinary person, and completely get rid of the uncontrollable Hulk state, but he never expected that God would use her divine power to bring him into the abyss. Divine power to activate the Hulk state. Boom. The violent Hulk was even more terrifying than the scene in the original play. He tore the steel with his hands. The gangsters around him who were freed from the magic of immobilization were razed to the ground by the Hulk banner in an instant as soon as they could move. Corpses were everywhere. Robert Bruce Banner was an ordinary person's psychology. He was not a killing machine. What he escaped was this uncontrollable and unprovoked killing. Screams accompanied death, and the whole factory was in a mess. Even the pursuers who came from behind could not escape. When the leading commando Emil Bronsky looked at the green giant monster in front of him, he was shocked. His original worldview was completely shattered. He didn't understand how such a thing could exist in the world. Forklifts and tank trucks were thrown away just like children throwing toys. This scene was so shocking. Conventional weapons could hardly cause any harm to the Hulk. They were forced to watch the Hulk escape. No one dared to catch up this time, and Robert Bruce Banner fled in the direction of the primeval forest, and he couldn't catch up with the giant monster at all. The survivors dragged their injured bodies and broken hearts back to the troop vehicles. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross looked extremely ugly. He was in no mood to reprimand the failed capture operation, because such a terrifying Hulk could not be defeated even if the troops were increased by 10 times. However, after the silence, there was inner fanaticism. If this terrifying monster could be mass-produced in the army, then who would compete with it on the battlefield of the army? Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross firmly believed that he was right to deliberately conceal the truth and let Robert Bruce Banner study this project. As for the casualties, he didn't care. Kindness is not in charge of the army, and justice is not in business. This is an eternal truth. What exactly is that? Commando Captain Emil Bronsky, one of the important characters in this drama, found it difficult to understand. He is a very outstanding Special Forces soldier. He has experienced countless difficult missions in his life, most of which can be completed excellently. Only this time, the injury is a trivial matter. The only thing he can't understand is what he saw with his own eyes. Soldiers who have never experienced such a monster are difficult to accept. Emil, you have worked hard in this operation, and you are ready to go back and rest. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross was reluctant to explain for the time being. Commando Captain Emil Bronsky wanted to know very much, but he could not overstep his authority. Military discipline can be said to be the strictest place. Goddess Hermione and Robert Bruce Banner. Hermione followed the Hulk into the depths of the forest. In the middle, Hermione still had some free time to travel back to Hogwarts to replenish her status. Just like when a hero in a game runs out of mana, he goes back to the fountain to replenish his mana bar. In fact, Hermione didn't have to go back to Hogwarts, but if the time converter lasted more than 10 hours, the time there would start to flow normally. If Hermione stayed in the Marvel world for too long, she would inevitably disappear from Hogwarts for a long time. If she went back once within 10 hours, she would be able to successfully get around the bug. This was a little cleverness that Ms. Hermione discovered herself. Robert Bruce Banner, after transforming into the Hulk, had a vague memory, but after venting his temper, his inner humanity still told him to run away and escape to a place with fewer people. If the Hulk rushed to the center of the city uncontrollably, it would inevitably be a terrible disaster. Fortunately, there was a melon-eating beauty who called herself God who followed him throughout the whole process. Arriving at a place with nice scenery, Hermione was ready to use magic to force the Hulk to return to human form. However, it is not necessary. Robert Bruce Banner's own Hulk move time has come. He collapsed in the stream, his body shrank rapidly, and finally turned back into an ordinary human. In the original movie, Banner Hulk and Iron Man Tony both have the aura of the protagonist. However, because of the existence of Hermione, their aura was weakened. At the same time, because of Miss Hermione's action, some uncontrollable future changes occurred. For example, in the original play, Banner just lay on a boulder, although there was water flow on the side. As long as he did not encounter large carnivores, there would be no danger. At most, he would catch a cold and have a fever. However, the Hulk's body resistance is very strong, and ordinary cold viruses cannot survive in Banner's body at all, so basically eliminate the danger. But now it is different. The bad luck of Tony Stark is now beginning to play out on Robert Bruce Banner. Unlucky, he just fell face down and fell directly into the water. Gurgle. It only takes a few minutes for Robert Bruce Banner to drown in this actually shallow stream. If there was no Goddess Hermione to save him, then Robert Bruce Banner would have been in tragedy. When he transformed into the Hulk, he was invincible in seconds, but as soon as he exited the state, he drowned in a shallow stream. This plot was too tragic. Miss Hermione took action and made Robert Bruce Banner fly up, and then fell on the boulder beside him. At the same time, she took out a warm blanket and covered him with it. With a magic trick, the stream water on Banner's body dried up, so that he could lie on the stone. Except for the discomfort caused by the stone, the problem of coldness could basically be solved. At this time, Hermione planned to return to Hogwarts, and she would travel through Marvel to play next time when there was an exciting story. However, the system option task told Hermione that there was still a small story, so there was no need to leave in a hurry. Option 1. Drive an off-road vehicle in the forest and take the awakened Banner away from here. Completing the task will reward you with basic attribute +1. Option 2. Go to the forest to catch 2 crocodiles, make barbecue, and enjoy it with Banner. Completing the task will reward you with 1 bottle of barbecue sauce. Option 3. Sing and dance. No matter what time, you must face life with singing. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, singing, +1. Although there are no particularly funny options in the 3 tasks this time, funny things are already engraved in the genes and are everywhere. If you can use flying, even if you don't use the door key, even if you use a magic broom, it will be faster. You have to use an off-road vehicle to run on the ground. Option 2. Catch crocodiles. Can't you catch other small animals? The reward is too casual. Option 3. Singing and dancing seems normal, but for Ms. Hermione, it is not normal. She is not a talent and appearance anchor. What's wrong with singing and dancing all the time? Considering all factors, it's better to do something serious. It's difficult to get an off-road vehicle at this time, but it's still quite simple for God. Hermione used the door key to travel directly to the Seaview Villa area of Iron Man Tony Stark. Although Iron Man only loves sports cars, he also has a collection of off-road vehicles. She made room in the space ring and put a random car in it. Then Hermione did not even look for Tony Stark for a cup of tea, but left directly. Iron Man Tony's things are Hermione's things. Hermione's things are still Hermione's things. In short, whatever God does is right. Chapter 334. The car driven by God actually flew. It was already the next day after Tony Stark found out that his car was missing. Even the high-tech butler in his Seaview Villa did not find out how it was lost. It disappeared out of thin air. For Tony Stark, who is multi-talented and handsome, losing a luxury car worth millions is actually nothing, but the loss is too bizarre. Could it be that God stole it? Impossible. How can God do things that can be called stealing? It is clearly taking. Besides, Tony Stark does not believe that God would do such a thing. In his perception, God is omnipotent. God has long transcended the 3 realms and is not in the 5 elements. Indeed, Hermione can even catch a squirrel in the forest and use advanced transfiguration to turn the squirrel into a super off-road vehicle. However, Hermione does not want to do this. With a rich man like Tony Stark, it is easy to just take it. It is not too troublesome to change it back and forth, but it looks shabby. It makes it seem like all wizards are poor. As long as people are shameless, it is easy to become rich. When Robert Bruce Banner woke up, it was already daybreak. In the original movie, he was awakened by the cold, but here he was awakened by hunger. The blanket that Goddess Hermione gave him was not thick, but it was very warm. After years of fleeing, he did not have higher requirements for the quality of life. Even if he slept on a stone all night, he would not feel particularly uncomfortable with his thick skin and flesh. It was just that he was hungry. A magical scene appeared. Robert Bruce Banner rubbed his eyes, thinking that he was dazzled. He had just woken up. Not only was he covered with a blanket, but there was also food suspended in the air in front of him. Although it was a high-calorie junk fried food, when people were hungry, fried chicken burgers became extremely delicious. Thank God. Although Robert Bruce Banner's memory of turning into the Hulk and killing people was blurred, only the flash of bullets flashed in his mind. Although Robert Bruce Banner was invincible as the Hulk, his heart was still very fragile. He would have the psychology of ordinary people and fear of guns and bullets. Although those bullets hitting the Hulk were like cotton snowballs, Banner, who was still an ordinary person, was still afraid. His memory was vague, but he still had the memory of seeing God before. If food can be perfectly suspended in the air, what else could it be if it wasn't divine power? Robert Bruce Banner thanked him and ate it with relish. Solving hunger is undoubtedly one of the most basic happiness of human beings. Especially the power of God makes the food hot. It's even more heartwarming. At this time, a loose piece of clothing flew over. "Thank you." Robert Bruce Banner put it on without hesitation. It fit well and the texture of the clothes was very good. It was worthy of being a gift from God, but it was extraordinary. Robert Bruce Banner squatted in front of the stream to wash his face, although he no longer remembered that he almost fell into this shallow stream and drowned. He is much better now than he was in the original play. In the original play, Banner woke up alone, shivering with cold. Not to mention washing his face, he didn't even have the energy to eat. At this time, Miss Hermione came wearing cool sunglasses, driving the $1 million off-road sports car collected by Iron Man Tony Stark. In the empty forest, the appearance of such a modern car seemed rather abrupt, but Robert Bruce Banner could accept it. Even if the goddess Hermione was flying on a carpet or driving an alien spaceship, he was not surprised. After all, she was a god. The existence of God was the limit of human imagination. "Get in the car." The door opened automatically, and Hermione called Robert Bruce Banner in. Banner was a little excited. Although he had met the goddess several times, he had been in a hurry before, and he didn't even have time to observe carefully. Now, God drove a famous brand off-road vehicle in the forest and let him get in the car. Of course, the heart couldn't bear it. Take a deep breath. It's natural for ordinary people to be excited, as long as they don't have heart disease or other related diseases. Banner can't be excited. If he gets too excited, it will be fatal. In the Hulk state, Banner is enough to destroy everything. After getting into the car carefully, Robert Bruce Banner first smelled the scent from the goddess. Although Banner is not a playboy like Iron Man who has seen countless women, the scent of Hermione is the most fragrant Banner has ever smelled. It makes people feel ecstatic and indescribable. Robert Bruce Banner was so excited that he even started to stutter. "Thank you, God." There were so many things he wanted to say, but in the end he still said thank you. Miss Hermione said, "You still have a long way to go in the future. I am here, so don't worry too much." God spoke again, and the voice was so beautiful, just like her. The sun shone through the trees in the forest, through the car window glass, and fell on the back of Hermione's snow-white hand holding the steering wheel. It was as white and tender as jade, worthy of being a god. Even when staying next to God, Banner could feel that he had also sublimated, become handsome, and become noble. "Thank you God for your protection. After so many years of despair, I feel so relieved for the first time." Hermione began to enlighten him while driving. "Why do you want to despair? In fact, the enemies who see you turn into the Hulk should be in despair." Robert Bruce Banner hurriedly explained, "My power is uncontrollable, and I will hurt ordinary people." It was because of this that he left his original home and his beloved girlfriend, and searched for a way to get rid of the Hulk alone for several years. Although he failed in the end. Banner, as a god, do you know why I suddenly appeared beside you? Miss Hermione began to pretend to be mysterious again. Robert Bruce Banner was of course puzzled, and he looked at God in confusion. At this time, there was no road ahead, but a cliff. Banner was very nervous. He didn't know what would happen next when he was sitting in the God's car. As a result, a shocking scene appeared. The car driven by God actually flew up, which was naturally quite incredible for Robert Bruce Banner. But for Ms. Hermione, in his second year at Hogwarts, Ron drove his father's charming flying car around. With Miss Hermione's current magical strength, it is easy to make a car fly. Driving in the forest, with the blessing of magic, is naturally smooth. Robert Bruce Banner's heartbeat accelerated, and after the car landed smoothly, he even forgot what the god had just said, until Hermione took her hands off the steering wheel and used magic to drive the car fully automatically without manual control. Hermione began to speak as a god. Banner, you have to change your thinking in the future. You should not avoid the ability of being a Hulk, but start learning how to control it. This is very important. Although this sentence completely violated Robert Bruce Banner's thoughts over the past years, it was the words of the goddess, and Banner completely agreed. You are God. Everything you said is right. Hermione smiled. Yes, you think so, and that's correct. Hermione continued, okay, you can walk the rest of the way by yourself. I won't accompany you. After that, Hermione disappeared as a god. If Banner hadn't been sitting in the car, he would have thought he was dreaming again. New book, please support. Thank you everyone. Chapter 335, One magical magic is all it takes to consume 100 kilometers of fuel. For a moment, loneliness and hesitation did not completely overwhelm Robert Bruce Banner, because he had more important things to do. What he faced at this moment was extremely unexpected. Even if God suddenly left, the enchanted car could still run normally. It only takes one magic to consume 100 kilometers of fuel. Robert Bruce Banner didn't know what to do. Should he pretend to be driving, or lie down and let this luxury SUV become a lonely ghost car drifting on the sea? Where is it taking me? The car arrived at a place that Banner didn't expect, where he used to live. Is this God's will? Robert Bruce Banner got out of the car with doubts and started his new story and new life. Indeed, after experiencing this attack, he did plan to come back, because Mr. Lan said that he needed the relevant information after he was exposed to gamma rays, and those things were in a famous university laboratory where he used to work and live. Miss Hermione returned to Hogwarts. Although Miss Hermione was smart, she still needed to recall what happened in this ancient castle before she left last time, but it was not too difficult to think too much. Although the stories in Hogwarts were not as exciting as those in the Marvel world, they also had the charm of stories here. I remembered, yesterday, Harry Potter was interviewed by the old woman reporter of the Daily Prophet. I even chose a task and destroyed her shorthand quill. What interesting things will happen today? Harry Potter in the original play was more pitiful at this time. He was almost deserted by everyone in Hogwarts, and no classmates were willing to talk to him. People are like this. When Harry Potter became a hero, everyone came to chase him. But now, because he is not old enough, he has become the only fourth place in the Triwizard Tournament. No matter how you look at it, it is too bizarre. It is understandable that he is abused, puzzled, and spurned. It is understandable, but it does not mean that they are not chilling. The road of a warrior is usually more torturous than that of an ordinary person. Harry Potter has experienced these things so that he can better face the challenging future. A warrior is never afraid of difficulties and obstacles. What people say is just a passing cloud in front of him. Warrior Harry Potter came to a lonely tower outside Hogwarts today. In the original play, it is unlikely that Harry Potter would have friends around him at this time, but it is different here. Miss Hermione, the most low-key, beautiful and attractive girl in the school, is actually with Harry Potter, the male wizard student who ruined all the popularity of passers-by shortly after the start of school this year. Oh my god, what did I see? Beautiful Miss Granger, why did she do this? What did Miss Granger do? Didn't you see it? She is with Harry Potter now. Oh my god. The Harry Potter who used a disgusting method to get a place in the Triwizard Tournament. Passers-by were very surprised, because smart people should know how to avoid danger and seek good fortune at this time. When Harry Potter's reputation was completely ruined at Hogwarts, it was always difficult for outsiders to accept that she was walking with Harry in public, especially those male fans who have always liked Ms. Hermione. They were the most heartbroken. Harry was surprised, but not too surprised at the same time. He was the person who knew Hermione best in the whole Hogwarts. Actually, you shouldn't be with me at this time, Harry said awkwardly. Now the two of them were like two completely different luminous bodies. Harry Potter was now the most hated person in the school because of the cheating incident. Miss Hermione was different. She was low-key and beautiful, with high character and high emotional intelligence. She was also very modest in her dealings with others. She was loved by everyone and everyone loved her. Such a beautiful girl should not be with Harry Potter, who was hated by everyone. What does it matter? "Harry, I believe you," Hermione said in the tone of a smart girl. Smart girls always speak in a way that makes people feel strongly favorable. For example, in Battle Through the Heavens, the male protagonist was humiliated and looked down upon at the beginning, but the female protagonist Alexander was different from other coquettish bitches. She always believed that her brother Yen was the most handsome man in the world. If it were an ordinary person, this kind of trust would bring a lot of pressure to people, and it would be even more painful. But the male protagonist is different. With this trust, he will rise sooner or later, and this kind of girl will make most boys feel favorable. Harry's heart was warm, which he had never felt before. Although everyone liked it, there were very few who could really help others in times of need. Harry heard the people around him talking about it, and he said sadly, "Hermione, I appreciate your kindness, but if you stay with me like this, others will gossip." Hermione rarely showed a sweet smile and said, "Indeed, with my low-key and unobtrusive personality, I should keep a distance from you at this time and try not to have too much contact with you. But we will grow up eventually, and we will experience many things, and things will often go against our wishes. Many things are not about whether we want to do them, but how to do them best." Although Harry Potter is not stupid, he was also a little confused by Hermione's words. However, after looking at Hermione's crystal amber eyes that reveal a unique charm and wisdom, he gave up and sighed. "Hermione, I have been with you for too long, but I can't see through you anymore." Hermione rarely smiled mischievously. "Why do you insist on seeing through a person? Isn't it more attractive to keep a little mystery?" "That's right. Chewed sugar cane and tasteless chewing gum will be spit out. If a person has endless charm and flavor inside, then he will definitely continue to attract people. Miss Hermione is such a treasure. You can always see freshness in her." Harry Potter did not explain what he was doing outside the castle. Miss Hermione happened to meet him and walked with him without asking. It was rare that there were no strange system option tasks today. Hermione also wanted to do something she wanted to do. This is the Owl Tower. Owls kept flying to the top of the tower and delivered unique envelopes. Generally, wizards have their own owls, so most owls will fly to the Great Hall when students are eating. The Owl Tower here is different. Most of the owls here are not raised by students, but fly from outside. Because it is very messy and there is a lot of bird droppings, naturally few students are willing to come here. Harry Potter looked at the fairy like Hermione, turned around and said, "Wait for me here, I'll go upstairs to get the letter and come down." Hermione took out a mask, put it on herself, and gave one to Harry, saying, "I'm not that squeamish, let's go up together. I just want to see what Sirius Black wrote to you." Harry Potter was surprised. His eyes widened. "Hermione, how did you know I was here to get the letter from Sirius Black?" Chapter 336 You forgot I am Miss Hermione Granger, the detective. The scenery outside Hogwarts is picturesque. Facing Harry's surprise and confusion, Hermione replied handsomely, "You forgot, I am Miss Hermione Granger, the famous detective of Hogwarts." If Miss Hermione hadn't introduced herself like this, Harry Potter would have really forgotten a little. Thinking back to when the three of them were still young, they went on adventures together and solved cases together. Although Miss Hermione's reasoning was very exciting and interesting, especially when she slandered and threw dirty water on Professor Snape, in the end, Miss Hermione's reasoning was just like Maori Kogoro, which was completely different from the truth. Of course, I remember that during that time, Miss Hermione often said shocking things, saying a lot of things that Ron and I couldn't understand. That's right, at that time, Miss Hermione had more tasks. For example, "You don't even want to call me Godfather." Saying the most cruel words and taking the most vicious beatings cannot be said to be exactly the same, but it can be said to be completely unrelated. "Although I am not a human, you are a real dog. I think I can still be rescued." Wait, the strange and weird tasks released by the system during that period were simply crazy. So the goddess Hermione had to show funny behavior. Looking back, some of the sand sculptures are still quite funny. Time has passed so quickly in the blink of an eye. It really makes people sigh. Where has the time gone? Remember when I asked you to write a letter to Sirius Black on the train? Calculating the time, Your coming here is probably related to Sirius Black's reply. Harry Potter sighed. Hermione, you are so smart. He looked at the top of the tower, and an owl flew in the distance, circling, and was in the same frame with the blue sky and white clouds. But I don't know if I can receive the letter today, Hermione said. Don't be discouraged. Life is like duckweed. Time will tell us the answer. The female academic master always inadvertently reveals a philosophy when she speaks, which makes people admire her. The two of them came to the top of the tower together. It was very windy here, and their hair was messed up, except for the fact that there were too many owls wreaking havoc inside. It was actually not bad. It was just that the space was a little narrow, and it was a bit crowded for two people to come up together. Harry didn't come here to relax. He searched quickly. What's more, he was lucky. There happened to be an owl that looked particularly fierce with a special letter. Harry glanced at Hermione and opened the envelope. It was written inside, "Harry, I can't take the risk of letting Hedwig deliver the letter. Since the World Cup, the Ministry of Magic has intercepted many owls. It is too easy to recognize. We have to talk, face to face. Meet in the Gryffindor common room at 1 a.m. on Saturday. You must come alone." Signed, Sirius. Because of his trust in Miss Hermione, Harry turned around and handed the letter to Miss Hermione after reading it. Hermione returned the letter and asked, "Harry, did you see the last sentence of the letter?" Harry didn't understand what Hermione said for a while. "What did you say?" Harry picked it up and took a look. "Ah!" Harry suddenly screamed, and saw the ferocious owl that was delivering the letter bit Harry's finger directly. Owls are birds of prey, and their fighting power is comparable to that of eagles. Therefore, Harry Potter's finger was bleeding on the spot. At this moment, the camera zoomed in and you can see that the last sentence of Sirius Black's letter is, "P.S. My owl loves to bite people." Harry looked depressed. Hermione said, Let's go down. I'll bandage you simply. If you meet a brother with a bad temper, this owl may have been a meal on a plate. Of course, this is not possible in reality, because owls are protected animals in reality. The environment on the tower is not very good. There are many bacteria, and when we got to the bottom of the tower, the air was immediately much fresher. Hermione took off her mask, disinfected Harry with disinfectant, and used magic to make Harry Potter's fingers heal quickly. At the same time, Harry had to be vaccinated. Harry Potter was horrified. "Hermione, this is just a minor injury. I don't think I need to get an injection." Hermione said, "No, you still have to be cautious when doing things, and you can sail the ship for 1,000 years with caution." "Okay then." Helplessly, Harry still got an injection. But with Miss Hermione, it was still very reliable. "You will come with me at 1 o'clock on Saturday morning. Sirius knows you. He won't mind," Harry said. Hermione replied, "At that time, I should be sleeping beauty sleep, so I'd better not accompany you. You should be careful." Hermione is always so considerate and sensible, and her popularity is not just as simple as her beauty. A few days later, night came quickly, and Harry Potter had not yet arrived at the time agreed with Sirius Black. Miss Hermione was going to travel through Marvel to work again. Hermione used the door key to open the time and space gate and went over. Unexpectedly, she picked up a bottle of special potion as soon as she got there. In the past, 10% of good luck was picking up money, but after picking up too much money, it was no longer a novelty. Today, she picked up something different as soon as she crossed over. Hermione roughly guessed that this should be a biochemical potion, but Miss Hermione is a person who doesn't like to keep pets, but she likes to watch others keep them. Just like her dogs, it's interesting to watch others keep them and destroy the house. It's not interesting to keep them yourself. If Hermione wants to keep one on a whim one day, she can use this bottle of biochemical potion, process it, and inject it into her pet. Although it takes luck to mutate into the Hulk, general super gene mutations are still possible. However, Miss Hermione is not interested in this now. Compared with the power of biological mutation, she prefers the power of mastering the rules of the world. After collecting the special biochemical potion in the liquid nitrogen tank, Hermione began to observe the environment here in stealth. Obviously, This time she came here not to have a storyline with Robert Bruce Banner, but another scene. Through Miss Hermione's observation, this place looks like a laboratory that has been abandoned for many years. Many high-tech biological research equipment can still show that it was solving world problems one by one. As for why this place was closed, it may be that there were major problems. Before Miss Hermione thought about it, the door that had been sealed for many years was opened, and then two familiar people came in. They are Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross, an important character in the movie The Incredible Hulk, and Commando Captain Emil Blonsky. The Lieutenant General's official position is not small. The project of the biochemical super soldier warrior was planned and implemented by him. If it weren't for him, there would be no Hulk of Robert Bruce Banner, because Thaddeus Ross witnessed the terrifying power of the Hulk in the last operation. He was unwilling to return to the army when he came back. He wanted to find out the truth, otherwise he would not be willing. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross saw Emil Blonsky's determination and finally decided to reveal some secrets to him. Unexpectedly, this soldier Emil Blonsky was not an ordinary person. He hoped that he could also become a super being like the Hulk. The Hulk was unwilling to cooperate with the army, but Emil Blonsky was the best super special forces soldier. Thaddeus Ross thought about it for dozens of seconds and realized that if he didn't create another monster, it would be difficult for the Hulk to be captured by conventional forces. In the end, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross decided to give up his power privately and let Emil Blonsky, a soldier, inject the Super Soldier Serum. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 337 Super Soldier Serum. Super Soldier Serum? This thing is not simple. First, it is injected into the muscle, and then into the bone marrow. 2 injections. The pain is also skyrocketing, and ordinary people can't bear it at all. The mortality rate is very high. Fortunately, Emil Blonsky also has a certain aura, and he won't die so easily. Miss Hermione is hiding here, watching the villains start to charge money to upgrade. What should she do as a god? Don't worry, the system will give you an answer. Option 1. The mortality rate of Super Soldier Serum is so high, it shouldn't matter if one more person dies. Use magic to create the medical accident. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Demon, +1. Option 2. Emil Blonsky's mutation should be controllable. Add some magical animal serum from Hogwarts to his body. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Science, +1. Option 3. I'll just take a look. Don't say anything. Complete the task and reward the basic attribute +1. It turns out that Hermione came here to cause trouble, right? If it weren't for the butterfly effect that would cause an unpredictable future, it would be easy for Hermione to kill Emil Blonsky. It's not gentlemanly to make trouble in a medical accident. Kill him, and be done with it. So Miss Hermione chose to watch and not say anything. The experiment began. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross watched Emil Blonsky wailing in pain. He didn't feel sorry at all. He only cared whether the experiment would succeed. Time passed by. In the end, Emil Blonsky gritted his teeth and stood up. As the opponent of the future Hulk, Emil Blonsky was very tough. The experiment was successful, and Emil Blonsky became a super soldier. At the moment of success, Emil Blonsky felt that he could beat 10 of his former selves. The feeling of being full of strength was great. Lieutenant General Ross, I request to continue to capture Banner. This was Emil Blonsky's obsession. He wanted to have a fair fight with such a monster. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross was very happy. He smoked a cigar and said in the smoke, "We will find him." We found his lost computer in the place where he used to live. After cracking it, we found that he had been secretly communicating with a man called Mr. Blue for all these years. When he contacts that Mr. Blue next time, we will be able to find him through the coordinates. Emil Blonsky clenched his fists. Having said that, he was now eager to have a battle with Robert Bruce Banner. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross saw Emil Blonsky's thoughts, patted him on the shoulder and said, "During this period, you should train well and bring your body functions to the best state." "Yes, General." Emil Blonsky was not overwhelmed by the power at this time. He still remembered that he was a super soldier, and in the future, when his power breaks through the secular rules, his mentality will also change dramatically. The existence of Emil Blonsky and Robert Bruce Banner Hulk are a sharp contrast. Although Banner's ideological awareness is not as high as Iron Man, he took the initiative to become the guardian of mankind. But after Banner gained invincible power, he did not think of destroying the world. He just lived in seclusion and wanted to escape from it all. The villain is different. When he was a normal super special soldier, Emil Blonsky was a soldier. When he gained superpower, his mentality began to develop towards evil. In other words, good people are still good people after gaining power. Even if the villain was not a bad person originally, he would become a bad person after gaining terrible power. This is the difference. Maybe, if Emil Blonsky was not allowed to obtain the power of Super Serum, he could still remain the same. At least he would not begin to fall. However, fate is like this. Even if Miss Hermione forcibly intervenes, it will not be much better in the end. Besides, Miss Hermione and Emil Blonsky are not related, so there is no need for her to help him. Moreover, if Hermione does not take action, Emil Blonsky will have a lot of scenes later. If Hermione helps him, he will have to get a box lunch in advance. It is not that he died, but that he has nothing to do. Maybe there will be another super soldier who will replace him and become a powerful opponent of the Hulk Banner. Things are unpredictable, and no one can fully predict what will happen suddenly in the future. Hermione, after watching the villain upgrade, originally planned to return to Hogwarts. Unexpectedly, there is still a mission for Robert Bruce Banner. In this case, let's continue the business trip. Who let us be senior workers. Banner, sitting in the self-driving car, returned to the place where he used to live. Robert Bruce Banner simply disguised himself, put on a peaked cap, and then sought help from old acquaintances. Although Banner is a scientist and the invincible Hulk, he is still very weak in his bones. When he was in seclusion, he would choose some masters of cultivation to control his emotions. In the middle, he would also find Mr. Blue, to help himself. At this moment, returning to the place where he used to live, the first thing he still wanted to do was to seek help from old acquaintances. If it was Hermione, who had a strong sense of independence, she would not do this. She would generally choose to complete it herself. If she couldn't complete it herself, she would not do it to save trouble. Robert Bruce Banner is not like this. He is used to helping each other, which is a normal way of thinking. However, it seems too ordinary when it comes to superheroes. Banner's old acquaintance is an old man who runs a pizza shop named Stanley. He looks a bit like Banner's father, but he is not. It's just because this pizza shop is very close to where Robert Bruce Banner used to work and live, so Banner used to bring his girlfriend to eat here. After a few visits, he got to know Stanley, the owner of this shop. Stanley also likes a kind man like Banner. When Banner got into trouble, Stanley was sad for a long time, but the heartless Banner never wrote to Stanley. It's not that Banner forgot old man Stanley, but he was worried that his contact with old man Stanley would bring him trouble, and his Hulk state is still uncontrollable and very destructive. Now, he knew that there was a beautiful goddess behind him. Robert Bruce Banner no longer had this worry, and he really needed help from others. Superheroes in Marvel are rarely lone rangers. Most of them have friends and need help from their partners. Banner came in at a very subtle time when he opened the door of the pizza shop. Old Stanley was wiping the counter inside. He was old and he was always the only one in the shop. "Sorry, the shop is closed." Old Stanley did not look up. Most customers would leave automatically after hearing this answer, but the young man in the baseball cap did not leave. Banner pretended to be cool and did not speak, until old Stanley looked up and saw Banner showing the long-lost smile when he saw his old friend. Old Stanley was immediately shocked. "Banner, oh my God, you are still alive?" Old Stanley ran over excitedly, hugged Banner's shoulders like an old father, and looked carefully up and down. Several years have passed, and because of the genetic upgrade in his body, Robert Bruce Banner has not changed at all, but old man Stanley has aged a lot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338, Hulk's ex-girlfriend. Because of the genetic mutation, Banner has never been sick in these years. Microorganisms like viruses will be killed quickly when they enter Robert Bruce Banner's body. Therefore, Robert Bruce Banner's body is not only of great significance for military biochemical warrior research, but also of great value for medical treatment. Banner, you haven't changed at all in all these years. Banner spoke directly. Stanley, you have aged a lot. Old Stanley was not angry, and replied happily, time is not forgiving. As he said that, Old Stanley pulled Banner to sit down and asked carefully, I heard that there was an accident in your research, and you disappeared from then on. Your girlfriend Betty said that you were dead. After so many years, what happened? Robert Bruce Banner said, it's a long story. The less you know about this kind of thing, the better. Old Stanley said, I am already old, and I have lived enough in this life. I am not afraid of accidents. Banner said, in fact, something went wrong in the research at that time. My body. Banner briefly described the accident in the research that year. His body mutated and it seemed that he accidentally killed the scientist. Banner's conscience was condemned, and he knew that the military was concealing it, so he no longer believed in the military and escaped from the city. He wanted to completely eliminate the mutant genes in his body and then come back. I didn't want so many years to pass. I tried hundreds of methods and failed. Now I come back, and there are two purposes. 1. This is the guidance of God. 2. Banner wants the gamma-ray research data of that year, and then give it to Mr. Blue, to see if he has any solution. Of course, when God, Hermione appeared, Robert Bruce Banner wanted to rely on God. As a result, God was willing to help him, but not willing to help him completely. As a mortal, Banner couldn't guess what God was thinking, but life had to go on, and he had to make some choices on his own. After listening to it, Old Man Stanley felt very sympathetic. He patted the back of Banner's hand and said, I can't help you with anything specific. During this period, you stay here with me, and leave the food, clothing, housing and transportation to me. Thank you. Banner thanked sincerely. He really didn't make a mistake. If it was an ordinary person, hearing that Banner was wanted by the military, not reporting him would be good enough. He also took him in and helped him with things. This is not something that ordinary friends can do. Banner has never been blind in recognizing people. He is very accurate in judging people. The night passed quickly. When Robert Bruce Banner was tossing and turning in a bedroom on the second floor of Stanley's pizza shop and unable to fall asleep, Hermione, goddess, suddenly appeared. Banner seemed to have gotten used to the strange appearance of God, and he was not surprised, but just respectfully addressed her. God, you are here, Hermione said. Tomorrow you will sneak into your former university laboratory by delivering pizza, otherwise you may not be able to get in. Robert Bruce Banner nodded. Thank you for God's guidance, Hermione said. But don't hold too much hope. If you do it, you won't regret it. Robert Bruce Banner had a bad feeling in his heart. God seemed to know that his trip would not go smoothly. Think about it, too, such important information, and so many years have passed. Can you really get it if you go back? God came and went without a trace, and disappeared again after saying a word. Banner was also used to it. As long as God was still around, he had an unprecedented sense of security. The next day, the sun was shining and it was a good day. In fact, Banner couldn't sleep last night because of a woman. When he was far away from here, Banner only had a photo of his girlfriend in his house, and he didn't dare to see her. After a long time, he could bear it. But now it's different. He is back, and his girlfriend Betty Ross is also in this city. They are together under this blue sky. Banner felt very uncomfortable. He was so close, but he still didn't dare to go to her. After so many years, how is she? He must have thought that he had been dead for many years. Robert Bruce Banner put on the work clothes in Stanley's store, put on a baseball cap, and took 2 pizzas to invade the former university. As expected, just as God said, No one is allowed to enter here. Banner knew that God was omnipotent. With her magic, Robert Bruce Banner could easily enter. But God was unwilling to do this and let Banner do it himself. Robert Bruce Banner's former laboratory was on the upper floor of a building, and the security guard downstairs would not let Banner go up, even if Banner said he was here to deliver pizza. Fortunately, Banner had a good egg and handed a piece to Banner directly, saying, "I brought an extra pizza, and it's troublesome to bring it back anyway." Then he put the extra pizza on the security guard's table. "You kid, not bad. You know how to deal with things." The security guard looked happy that you are promising and will do great things. He smiled and said, "Go and come back quickly, don't cause trouble." Robert Bruce Banner nodded, but lowered his baseball cap, afraid that he would be recognized by others when he went upstairs. After all, Banner had lived and worked in this group of universities for many years. Fortunately, Banner was not a big star. Now he was wearing a pizza delivery uniform, and no one paid much attention to him. The security guard was in a good mood. It happened that he didn't have breakfast today, so he accidentally got an extra pizza. It was really a blessing from God. The security guard ate the pizza happily. Old Man Stanley was able to run a pizza shop for many years without closing it down. He still had some skills, and the pizza he made was of course very delicious. Robert Bruce Banner was not here to cause trouble, and he didn't want to cause trouble. He just wanted to retrieve the research data from that year. He came all the way to the top floor, and it was indeed sealed here, but he could still enter. Robert Bruce Banner quickly lowered his body and sneaked into the once dilapidated laboratory, sighing in his heart. He used to work here with laughter and chat. At a young age, he had a successful career, was a scientist, had his own job, and had a beautiful girlfriend. His life was happy. Unfortunately, after the Gamma bomb, everything changed completely. Robert Bruce Banner put away his lost mood at a uniform speed, turned on the computer he used to use, and began to search for information. The computer was locked, but Banner could successfully log in with his former identity as a scientist. However, when he searched for the previous gamma-ray research project, it was blank, obviously deleted by someone with ulterior motives. Damn it. Although Banner also guessed this situation, the loss in his heart was still indescribable. Why is it so difficult? After finally sneaking in and turning on the computer, he could not find the research data of the year. Fortunately, Robert Bruce Banner was not a child. After adjusting his irritable and lost mood, he took the pizza and prepared to leave. Although he failed this time, he believed that God would not appear beside him for no reason, and there would definitely be a turning point in the future. It's just that God didn't say it, and Banner shouldn't be anxious. Time will slowly tell him the answer. When leaving the building, he also greeted the security guard who was eating greasy food. It's inevitable to have human relationships everywhere. The sun outside is very big and a little dazzling, but in the picturesque campus, the breeze will still take away Banner's inner irritability. He was about to leave the campus, but on a bench, Robert Bruce Banner unexpectedly saw the familiar figure of a woman. If you say that every time you see Goddess Hermione, you are amazed, or amazing, then when you see your girlfriend Betty Ross, Banner is moved, sad, and has deep emotions that are difficult to suppress. Human affection is often not replaceable by beautiful appearance. Banner is different from Playboy Tony Stark. He is a very emotional person. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 339. The bloody plot unfolds smoothly. Banner's mood at the moment was quite complicated. He had never forgotten the woman in front of him for so many years. Even though the years had changed some of Betty Ross's appearance, the first time he saw her, the difference made Banner's heart surge to the extreme. His heartbeats accelerated, and the watch on his wrist that detected his heart rate began to sound an alarm. This is the first time Robert Bruce Banner has seen her again in so many years. It is conceivable how uncontrollable his emotions are. Ask the world, what is love, and teach life and death. But the next second, Banner was struck by lightning, and the whole person was instantly lost. When Banner was still hesitating whether to approach his girlfriend, who knew Betty Ross had already looked aside with a smile, and then in Banner's field of vision, a man who Banner did not know also came over with a smile on his face, and gave Betty Ross a big hug. They also kissed each other on the cheek. There is no doubt that at this moment, Robert Bruce Banner's heart was directly galloping with 10,000 grass mud horses. In fact, Banner had thought of this kind of result, but he just couldn't accept it. There is no doubt that in this moment, even if the Hulk Banner didn't transform, his head was green. He was extremely sad, and he was extremely disappointed. Without saying a word, Banner went back. He really shouldn't come back to the place where he once lived. There is a saying that goes, "A good horse doesn't eat the grass it turns back." Since he has escaped from here for so many years, it is reasonable to come back and suffer a series of blows. Miss Hermione didn't go back to Hogwarts either. It's not that she likes this kind of dog blood plot, but she still has a mission. Option 1. Robert Bruce Banner's blow is not big enough. Use magic to make him more unlucky, and complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, Bad Guy, +1. Option 2. Go up to comfort him and treat him to hot pot and beer. Option 3. I am just here to watch the fun, find a lake to play with water, and break the world record. The reward for completing the task is +1 basic attribute. Option 1 is interesting, but too bad. Robert Bruce Banner is already living a life worse than death at this moment, and Hermione is still trying to mess with him as a god. It's really a bit wrong. Option 2, consolation is okay, but the reward is a bit light, and it feels meaningless. If it is Harry Potter and Ron, it's okay. After all, they have known each other for many years, and there is still some friendship. As for Banner, although they have met several times, Hermione always appears to help him from a high position, and there is not much emotion in it. Then there is only interest. Let's go with option 3. Hermione checked on the internet. The world record holder for playing with water tiles moved 76 meters forward and jumped 51 times. It's already super awesome, but these are just the limits of Muggle mortals. Miss Hermione is an almighty god. Hermione came to a wide lake. She didn't use magic, but only relied on the attribute bonus of her body and the basic skills of a martial arts wizard. She threw the tile casually, and it flew out quickly like a bullet. It jumped on the water surface with a crackling sound, and finally jumped 233 times and flew 520 meters. Seeing this result, Hermione still sighed. It's still not good enough. I don't have the powerful and invincible feeling of being a god. It should be based on kilometers and 10,000 jumps. This is in line with God. It seems that Ms. Hermione still needs to practice and become stronger and more invincible. Congratulations on completing the option 3 task, and reward basic attributes +1. After successfully completing the task, Miss Hermione chose to go back to Hogwarts. She thought she could start the plot of the magic world, but the bloody plot of the Marvel Hulk was not over yet, and Hermione came again. At this time, it was already night. Robert Bruce Banner didn't know where he ran to drink to drown his sorrows, and he hasn't come back yet. Adults often collapse in an instant. After years of fleeing and fighting, Banner has not been knocked down. Instead, he has become more and more courageous. Now he is like a warrior. But I didn't expect that the ancients were not lying. He was afraid of being rejected by a beautiful woman. Robert Bruce Banner was still defeated by his feelings. Of course, his downtrodden side was not shown. He went to adjust his mood alone. At the pizza shop of Old Man Stanley, he was still a little worried. It was so late, and Banner hadn't come back yet. Could something have happened? However, after waiting for a long time, Banner's ex-girlfriend Betty Ross came. She actually brought her new boyfriend tonight. Her new boyfriend is actually a good person. He looks handsome, tall, and has a good job. In the past few years without Robert Bruce Banner, Betty Ross successfully walked out of the pain and started a new life. After all, normal people can't always live in painful memories. Sorry, it's closed. Old Man Stanley is very willful and gets off work on time. Betty Ross knew the old boss's character, so she was not angry. Instead, she smiled and said, "We can just eat whatever we want. I only have garlic ketchup left in the store." Stanley was stunned by the voice when he just said a paragraph. Stanley looked up suddenly. It was Banner's ex-girlfriend. This was too ridiculous. Although Betty Ross often came to eat, but now that Banner is back, and Betty Ross is coming with her new boyfriend, Stanley would feel embarrassed. Just at this moment, the back door of the store was opened, and Robert Bruce Banner finally sorted out his lost mood. Today was undoubtedly a bit bad. Not only did he not find the previous research materials, but he also ate a bowl of poisoned dog food on the university campus. The dog food was provided by his ex-girlfriend and her current boyfriend. The double loss hit, and it took a long time to adjust to get better. Tonight, Banner's backpack was ready, and he came to say goodbye to Stanley. He is now under arrest, and he doesn't want to cause trouble to Old Man Stanley. It would be better for Old Man Stanley if he leaves early. However, he never expected that he would encounter such a bloody scene. In the store, his ex-girlfriend and her current boyfriend were actually there at the same time. And of course Old Man Stanley was there too. Robert Bruce Banner's mentality exploded instantly. He didn't expect that God would play such a big joke on him. There was even a moment when he felt that his painful experience was arranged by that God. This was wronging Miss Hermione. She was not so bored that she arranged such a bloody plot for him. Bang! The door closed instantly, and Robert Bruce Banner turned around and ran away. He was used to escaping. However, people's vision is very fast. Almost the moment they open their eyes, they can see objects in the outside world. The back door of the store that Banner opened just now happened to be face to face with Betty Ross's position. So the two were almost face to face at the time. The distance was not far. How could Betty Ross not see it? Betty, what's wrong with you? The current boyfriend noticed that Betty Ross's face changed and she looked a little strange. Robert Bruce Banner was heartbroken just now, and so was Betty Ross. No one knew how she had spent these years, and she often cried late at night. When she finally let go of the past and was able to face life again, the man who should have been dead for many years actually appeared face to face. Chapter 340. Is this God's punishment for her? Is this God's punishment for her? Banner's head was green with oil, and he was in a very sad mood. So was Betty Ross. It was so difficult to let go of the past, and when she was about to start a new happy life with her current boyfriend, the man who should have died for many years and made her suffer for many years came back. Betty Ross knew that she was not delusional. She just wanted to see that man at this moment. Her heart would not be false. When Betty Ross saw Robert Bruce Banner, her heart almost stopped, and then it was a pain like being squeezed and crushed. This is the emotional shock that her current boyfriend can never bring her. Time is running out. Betty Ross follows her heart, without explaining a word to her current boyfriend, and chases out the back door. But Robert Bruce Banner is now a Parker master, and a group of well-equipped special forces can't catch him. Not to mention Betty Ross. When she chased out of the back door, the outside was empty, with only a huge trash can on the side of the road. But in fact, Robert Bruce Banner did not run far. He was also in pain. He squatted behind the trash can. Banner, is that you? Answer me quickly. Don't avoid me, okay? If it was the first year after losing Robert Bruce Banner, Betty Ross would think she was hallucinating. That selfish man thought that escaping was to protect his girlfriend. In fact, he was selfish. What would happen if he wrote a letter to tell her that he was still alive? If Betty Ross knew that Banner was still alive, she would wait for him no matter how long it took. Robert Bruce Banner was very accurate in judging people. The girlfriend he chose was also a person who attached great importance to feelings. She would not stay a widow for Banner. After all, the two had never even married. However, how Robert Bruce Banner valued his girlfriend, and how much his girlfriend Betty Ross valued him. But fate is unpredictable, and God makes people play tricks on people. Lovers can never become dependents. Robert Bruce Banner didn't have the courage to come out after all. He felt that it was good for Betty Ross to start a new life. He shouldn't show up again. Just treat him as dead and let his girlfriend forget him completely. Tonight was really an accident. He didn't want to disturb her. If he really wanted to disturb her, then when he returned to this familiar city, Robert Bruce Banner would first look for Betty Ross, not the old man Stanley in the pizza shop. Betty Ross didn't believe that she was hallucinating. She hurried to the old man Stanley and turned a deaf ear to her current boyfriend's worries. Yes, if you look at it from the perspective of the male protagonist Banner, the girlfriend Betty Ross's behavior is very affectionate and worthy of touching. However, there is no absolutely perfect thing in this world. When someone is moved, someone will inevitably be sad. This is very unfair to the current boyfriend. What did he do wrong? Just because he is in love with Betty Ross, he has to bear this. When he met Betty Ross, Robert Bruce Banner had been dead for many years. Okay, now this person who should have died suddenly appears again. What's going on? What do you think he is? Of course, the current boyfriend was extremely depressed, especially after he learned some information from Old Man Stanley. He collapsed even more. He felt that Banner and Betty were like a pair of dogs and bitches. Tell me, was that man Banner just now? Tell me quickly. The gentleness of Betty Ross when she first came was gone, and now there was only a strong inquiry. She must know the answer today. If Old Man Stanley was good for Betty Ross, he would not tell her the truth, because it was good for her to start a new life now. But Old Man Stanley would of course favor Banner. After hesitating for a while, he said, "I don't know how to say it, because I don't know enough." Hearing this answer, Betty Ross's tense emotions suddenly found an outlet, and tears burst out in an instant. Just this sentence is enough. Old Man Stanley's words are enough to prove that Banner is still alive, and Betty Ross knows this. On Miss Hermione's side, she felt that she had almost watched the show and eaten melons, and it was time to play some of her own role. The main reason was that her system task came again. Robert Bruce Banner was walking alone on the street, and Miss Hermione floated and appeared beside him. "You shouldn't have fled just now," Miss Hermione said. Robert Bruce Banner was not a man who was greedy for beauty, but few men could refuse to see Miss Hermione's beauty. Tonight, Banner was not in the mood. He didn't even have the strength to answer Miss Hermione's next words. Extremely sad and complex emotions filled his entire soul. After a long time, Banner finally answered, "God, she already has new happiness, and I shouldn't appear to destroy it." A very confident answer. So many years have passed. If it weren't in the movie world, the woman who played happily would have had several new boyfriends long ago. Banner is the one who probably has forgotten everything. "I can't even remember it. How can I talk about destroying it?" Hermione continued. "But if fate is destined, do you still have a chance to meet?" Robert Bruce Banner finally stopped his numb steps. Suddenly, heavy rain fell, and Banner was instantly soaked. Miss Hermione was a god, and the rain would bypass Hermione, so even the air around her body was dry. Under the street lights, God looked so real, yet so beautiful and illusory. Banner said bitterly, "God, did you arrange the fate you mentioned?" He should have thought of it long ago. How could it be so coincidental? After so many years, the first time he went to school, he met his ex-girlfriend and current boyfriend. He just came back and they met face to face. It was too deliberate, and Banner naturally suspected that it was arranged by God. Miss Hermione shook her head. "No, although I am God, everyone has their own destiny. Although I can control part of it, not all destiny can be controlled by me." It was a very illusory answer, and Banner was naturally used to it. "I don't know. Answer your question just now," Banner said confidently. "If fate really doesn't intend to let me go, I will also refuse, because I am not worthy of her happiness now." It's quite high-sounding, but can emotional matters really be so rational? People are not machines. Maybe it's really arranged by God. In the heavy rain, Robert Bruce Banner was drenched and embarrassed. He was not tall and strong without turning into the Hulk, and he looked even more pitiful at this moment. However, a classy car suddenly drove over and stopped in front of Banner. In the original play, the whole city was so big that the director did not give a reason for how Betty Ross drove to find Banner. But here, Miss Hermione suddenly appeared and talked so much, just because of the option task. She used magic, and Betty Ross's car was very destined to find Robert Bruce Banner easily. It makes sense, as long as Miss Hermione takes action. In the heavy rain, under the street lights, the beloved woman in the car, outside the car, the heartbroken man. At this moment, the two of them just stared at each other, as if time had stopped. Chapter 341 A New Hope. As the first audience at the scene, Miss Hermione couldn't help but smell the sour smell of love when she saw this scene. There is a feeling of wanting to have a love affair, which is painful. Separate, reunite, separate again, and hold hands again. Think about the complicated process. Forget it. Besides, there is no man who is worthy of this lady. You can't just find someone to make do with. This won't work. For a high-class girl like Hermione, falling in love is like raising a husky. It's more interesting to watch others fall in love. Robert Bruce Banner stared at his ex-girlfriend Betty Ross for a long time in the heavy rain in the city at night, but he couldn't harden his heart in the end, so he chose to get in his ex-girlfriend's car and disappeared in the night train. See, men can say that they don't associate with women they loved before, but in fact, they are usually soft-hearted. Humans usually have unimaginable compromise and tolerance for their beloved things. In the passenger seat of the car, Banner's hair was still dripping. Betty and Banner, who were driving, did not speak. Of course, they did not notice the goddess Hermione Granger sitting in the back seat. Betty Ross's mood fluctuated greatly. There were too many things she wanted to say in her heart, but she didn't know how to start for a while. Banner's mood calmed down on the contrary. Now that everyone was in the car, his ups and downs were not like a man. The car came to a quiet community. It seemed to be a school district house, which was quite close to the school. The car drove back and the rain just stopped, but Robert Bruce Banner's hair was not dry yet. Betty Ross finally pretended to be calm and said the first sentence. "There are no outsiders here. You don't have to worry about safety." Banner looked at her. If he could be a little tougher, he would not disturb his ex-girlfriend's new life. Or even more bloody, he slapped Betty Ross in the face and said, "I don't love you anymore, don't bother me." In a way that hurt Betty Ross, let her stay away from the dangerous self. This kind of plot often happens in melodramatic love dramas. The male and female protagonists, for some unspeakable reason, clearly love each other, but deliberately do things that hurt each other. Fortunately, there is no such concern in the Marvel world. The previous meeting between the two was melodramatic enough. After entering the house, the two looked very embarrassed, and Betty Ross didn't know what to do with her hands for a while. She hated Robert Bruce Banner for leaving without saying goodbye. She also hated why she didn't wait a few more years. If she was still single now, she wouldn't have to be so embarrassed. After Miss Hermione came in, she sat directly on the sofa and ate snacks. When watching a drama, it is of course the best choice to pair it with snacks. Betty Ross did not take the initiative to mention the relationship. At this time, whoever mentioned the relationship first would be embarrassed. "I heard from Stanley that you want to find the research materials of that year?" Betty Ross went to the study, and when she came out, she handed a USB flash drive to Banner. "When the accident happened, I knew that this information was very important. After I copied it, I deleted it manually, and I never told my father about it." Yes, the more bloody thing is that the current Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross, who is the opposite of the male protagonist in this drama, is Betty Ross's father. From the perspective of Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross, he has a daughter with arms turned outward, which is also quite a headache. Robert Bruce Banner was undoubtedly stunned. There is a bright future after a dark period. Banner thought he was miserable enough. Unexpectedly, his ex-girlfriend took the initiative to find him and took him to her private residence, and also handed him the gamma-ray research data he had dreamed of. The surprise came too suddenly, leaving Robert Bruce Banner at a loss for a while. Seeing the scene where Banner was so excited that his expression was difficult to control, Betty Ross finally laughed easily and said, "I thought at the beginning that this information must be useful, and now it can finally come in handy." "Thank you." Banner took the USB drive and could only say thank you. But the two of them kept silent about their feelings for each other in the past few years. In the dead of night, Robert Bruce Banner held the USB drive and stared at the ceiling with his eyes open, unable to fall asleep. In another room separated by a wall, Betty Ross also took off her disguise during the day and began to cry sadly while hugging the quilt. She didn't know what she had done wrong and why God tortured her like this. The moment she saw Robert Bruce Banner, she knew who the man she loved deeply in her heart was. No one could replace him. as long as he came back. After Miss Hermione completed the task of watching the movie on the spot, she traveled back. This large-scale dog-blood love story between Robert Bruce Benner and Betty Ross has finally come to an end for the time being. I will come back to watch it next time. At this moment, Miss Hermione is going back to Hogwarts to go to school. It feels like a long time has passed. It is indeed easy for people to forget some important things when running around on business trips. Hermione thought about what happened in Hogwarts recently, but she couldn't figure it out after thinking about it. The system option tasks started to remind immediately. Option 1. Put on school uniform. Go to the Gryffindor common room with Harry Potter to meet Sirius Black. Complete the task, reward basic attribute +1. Option 2. Go back to the dormitory to sleep. Just traveled through Marvel to watch a movie. It is most comfortable to go back to sleep now. Complete the task, reward 1 year pick. Option 3. Go see what Professor Snape is doing in the castle late at night. I haven't seen him for a long time. Complete the task, reward 1 bottle of facial cleanser. Facial cleanser is indeed very practical for girls, but Miss Hermione has a lot of this kind of thing. It is still a bit light to use it as a task reward. The more basic attribute points, the better. Ordinary people, even wizards, actually have a ceiling for human attributes, such as weightlifting, long jump and running. Once you reach the limit of human beings, it is difficult to make any further progress. But the plug-in attribute points are different. As long as you add them, there is no ceiling. The higher the attribute points, the higher the upper limit. This is a terrifying accumulation. Without accumulating small steps, you can't reach 1,000 miles. So, it is certainly comfortable and relaxing to go back to the dormitory to sleep at this time, but the rewards are also very small. Let's go on an adventure with Harry Potter. She is the one who is taking the risk. With Miss Hermione's current strength, she can only play a cameo role and chat with them. But then again, Hermione remembered that when she went to the Owl Tower with Harry Potter last time, she said that she would not come to join in the fun. After all, Sirius Black only wanted to see Harry Potter alone. Even if Hermione came, she could still be invisible. But now, option 1 requires wearing school uniforms, so there is no way. Girls, lying and breaking their promises are cute. On Harry Potter's side, he kept watching the time, fearing that he would be delayed. Although he only met Sirius Black last year, he is his godfather. This year, Harry Potter got into trouble again, and now the only elder he can trust is Sirius. Chapter 342. Hermione is an ordinary witch in Hogwarts. Miss Hermione didn't mean to scare Harry, he just jumped on his own. Hermione, it's you. Harry sighed. Hermione asked curiously, why are you so timid? Harry used to be very courageous. Could it be that a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger, but now that he has grown up, he is afraid instead? Harry said awkwardly, I don't know. Maybe too many things happened in Hogwarts this year. Even in the middle of the night, Hermione with her beautiful face is still not boring to watch. Hermione is a god in Marvel, and she is just an ordinary beautiful witch in Hogwarts. When she traveled back, she smiled charmingly and said, didn't we have a lot of things in Hogwarts that year? Harry thought about it, and it was true. From the first grade, second grade, third grade, to the fourth grade now, every year is not peaceful. Now she, has grown up. But Harry was just scared just now, and he is indeed more timid than before. Harry did not ask Miss Hermione why she was here at this moment. He didn't need to think about it, although Hermione said last time that she would not come and she had to sleep for beauty sleep. Now it seems that even if Miss Hermione is as beautiful as a fairy, she shouldn't take everything she said seriously. However, with Hermione by his side, Harry feels more at ease. Although Harry knows that Hermione has many secrets, he believes in Hermione because he can feel that there should be no smarter girl than Hermione in the whole Hogwarts. In the fiery red common room, the atmosphere is extremely mysterious, because as long as it is in this castle, everything that happens will be surrounded by mystery. Sirius, Harry called carefully. He only knew that Sirius told him through a letter that they would meet tonight, but it was unknown how Sirius would appear. At this time, a newspaper on the sofa attracted Harry's attention. He picked it up and took a look. His face changed immediately. It was written, Young Elegy, Harry Potter and the True Wizard Tournament, True Self column. The warrior has been selected. Harry Potter, age, 12 years old, a suspicious contestant in the True Wizard Tournament. The shadow of ghostly past wanders in his eyes. He holds back tears. Damn it. That shameless female reporter from the Daily Prophet, when interviewing Harry Potter, corrected him many times, saying that he was 14 years old, and there was no shadow of ghostly past in his eyes. It was all nonsense. All nonsense. What's going on? Hermione asked with concern. Harry Potter handed the newspaper over, and Hermione said angrily after reading it, It's just nonsense. Harry, you shouldn't be angry about this kind of thing. It's not worth it. Yeah. With the comfort of the beautiful witch Hermione, Harry Potter's mood was indeed much better. Hermione helped Harry vent his anger, directly crumpled the newspaper into a ball, and threw it into the blazing fireplace flames beside him. It was already midnight, and no one knew who put the charcoal in the fireplace. Probably magic. However, a strange scene suddenly appeared. A human face suddenly emerged from the burning charcoal of the newspaper, which looked particularly strange. The outline of the human face of the red charcoal was still very clear, and it was recognized at a glance that it was Sirius Black. Harry Potter was surprised, and he rushed over. Sirius, what's wrong with you? The red-faced Sirius Black replied, I don't have much time. Harry, I'll ask you directly. Did you throw your name into the goblet of fire? Good guy. He asked about the main business directly, and almost ignored the beautiful witch Miss Hermione next to him. No. Harry's mood immediately came up. This was the most depressing thing about going to school at Hogwarts this year. I have to ask. Okay, now tell me about your dream. You mentioned Wormtail and Voldemort, but who is the third person in the room? Sirius Black's dialogue is easy to make people confused. The things he mentioned were all things that Harry Potter wrote to Sirius on the train. I don't know. Harry Potter answered honestly. That nightmare happened a long time ago. According to the order of events, the most recent one was the selection of the champions in the Goblet of Fire. Going back further, it was the attack of the Death Eaters in the Quidditch World Cup. Harry Potter's nightmare happened before that. Harry didn't know the third person in the nightmare, and it had been so long, so of course he couldn't remember it clearly. Didn't you hear the name? Sirius Black was very concerned about this question. No. Harry tried to recall, and then said, Voldemort gave him a task, an important task. What task? Black asked. He wanted me. Harry recalled something, and he answered, I don't know why. He wanted to use that person to get rid of me, but it was just a dream, right? Harry felt from beginning to end that it was just a dream, and that nightmare only happened once, and it never appeared again. Black, with a charcoal face, comforted him. Yes. It was just a dream. Listen, Harry, the Death Eaters appeared in the World Cup, and your name came out of the Goblet of Fire. These are not coincidences, Sirius Black said solemnly. What do you mean? Harry vaguely guessed something, but he wanted his godfather to be more careful. Hogwarts is not safe now. I mean, the devil has sneaked in. Igor Karkaroff. He was a Death Eater. And people who have been Death Eaters can never change their nature. There is also the hard-hearted Barty Crouch, who locked his son in Azkaban. The two people Sirius Black mentioned, one is the current headmaster of Durmstrang School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and the other is the director of the Enforcement Department of the Ministry of Magic. They are both powerful guys with bad reputations. Harry frowned and asked, Did one of them sign me up? Harry, I don't know who signed you up, but he definitely has bad intentions. Someone will die in this competition. Sirius's prediction was quite accurate. Someone who could escape from Azkaban after being imprisoned for more than 10 years must be quite capable. I'm not ready to participate yet, Harry said with some disappointment. You have no choice. Sirius Black's attitude was consistent with that of Dumbledore and Professor Snape in this regard. Someone is coming. Miss Hermione finally had a line. Don't leave your friend, Harry. Sirius Black quickly began to say the last words. Dear and wise Miss Hermione Granger, you have to help Harry again this year. He needs your help. I will. Miss Hermione was used to being a savior. Hearing Miss Hermione's promise, Sirius Black disappeared with confidence. At this time, the movement on the stairs became louder and louder. Someone came down in thick pajamas. It turned out that he was Ron. "Who are you talking to?" Ron's face was not very good. He was now in conflict with Harry Potter, just like a young wife quarreling with her husband. Harry was a little flustered, but when he looked around, he saw that not only Sirius Black had disappeared, but also the beautiful Miss Hermione who had been by his side just now. "They were really amazing," Harry said forcefully. "What? I didn't talk to anyone. I heard voices." Ron felt that Harry Potter was hiding something from him again, which made Ron very unhappy. Could it be that as time went by, the relationship between him and Harry became so distant? "It's your hallucination, and it's not the first time." Harry would naturally not reveal the matter of Sirius. After all, Ron was a pig. He didn't even want to believe that Harry was framed when his name appeared in the Goblet of Fire. "What's the point of explaining to such a fool?" Ron said angrily. "I think you are probably reciting lines for the next interview." Humphrey, too lazy to pay attention to Harry, Ron turned back angrily. New book, please support. Thank you everyone. Chapter 343, Spring comes to the south side of the city. Facing such a Ron, Harry Potter was also in a state of disappointment. But after Ron left, Harry immediately started looking for Hermione. "Hermione, Hermione." Harry called Hermione's name. Unlike Sirius Black's sudden disappearance, Hermione had been with Harry the whole time, so she shouldn't have suddenly disappeared. Sure enough, Hermione showed up. "Why did you become invisible just now?" This was the first time Harry saw Hermione become invisible without the help of his invisibility cloak. It seemed that over the years, Hermione had learned much more magic than Harry expected. Hermione replied, "If I don't become invisible, Ron will definitely misunderstand again." Harry smiled bitterly. With Ron's stupidity, this was inevitable. "Okay, it's too late. Let's go back to sleep." Before leaving, Hermione said to Harry, "You don't have to worry too much. We have experienced the ups and downs in the past few years, and we will definitely be able to do it this year." Slightly different from the original movie. In the movie, the connection between the previous and the next is not too big. Although it is a series of movies, the story of each movie is independent, and the protagonist seems to have forgotten what happened last year. But the Wizarding World with Hermione is a little different. Since they choose to forget, wouldn't it be better for Miss Hermione to remind them more? With Hermione's reminder, Harry also gained courage in his heart. He nodded and said, "Dot." Hermione didn't think about it anymore. The stories of Marvel and Hogwarts unfolded at the same time and intertwined, making people feel torn and broken. But what's the harm? Humans have a complete set of protection mechanisms. When encountering something too complicated, the brain will automatically stop thinking, let the body rest, and replenish energy. Miss Hermione slept a good sleep. "If I hadn't wasted so much time traveling through Marvel, I would have graduated from the 4th grade of Hogwarts and started my 5th grade life." Time. It's a wonderful thing. At this moment, Miss Hermione suddenly wanted to recite a poem, but it was just a sudden thought and had nothing to do with the current story environment. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning and suddenly thinking of a planet in the depths of the universe. It has nothing to do with your life trajectory, but it just suddenly came to mind. It's also like walking on the side of the road and seeing a beautiful flower, but your brain thinks of a song that has nothing to do with the flower. Spring is here again on the small road in the south of the city, but I can only see plum blossoms but no people. People have 3,000 diseases in life, but only lovesickness cannot be cured. Miss Hermione has never been in love, but she suddenly sighed about love. When her roommate heard this, he also sighed. "Miss Granger, you are not only beautiful, but also speak beautifully." Miss Hermione said modestly, No, I just sighed for a moment. The system did not give Miss Hermione the opportunity to continue to show off, and directly issued a time travel mission. Hermione was not hurt by love, it was just a recitation in the early morning. She did not delay, picked up the door key and traveled to the Marvel world. Here, Robert Bruce Banner and his ex-girlfriend Betty Ross also spent a sleepless night last night. Hermione was originally lamenting that she didn't have anyone she liked in Hogwarts, so how could she suddenly think of love poems? It turned out that it might be the story between Banner and Betty in the Marvel world that triggered Miss Hermione's poetic inspiration. Although the story between the two is bloody, it is undeniable that it is indeed much deeper than the love history of Playboy Iron Man. Iron Man Tony can't even remember the name of his ex-girlfriend, because he has too many ex-girlfriends and can't remember them all. In contrast, Banner and Betty are much more down-to-earth. There is no illusory dream love. There is no fate between the two. There are tricks of fate and regrets of the years, but they still love each other deeply in their hearts. It is worth saying, people have 3,000 diseases in life, but only lovesickness cannot be cured. God is not with Banner, and he is used to it. If God wants to come out, she will come out. If she doesn't want to come out, Banner will not force her to come out. But what Banner doesn't know is that at this time, Miss Hermione has come and is invisible and suspended in the air, watching this man and woman continue to act. Early in the morning, Betty Ross looked at Robert Bruce Banner expectantly, but Banner said a very realistic sentence: "Can you borrow some money? I have been on the run for the past few years and I don't have any savings. Now, I don't even have money for a taxi." Very detailed. After sleeping with his ex-girlfriend for one night, he asked for money the next day. You are really a Hulk? Of course, Miss Hermione was just teasing, not despising. A penny can make a hero fall, and it has been like this since ancient times. Why is it a hero, not a villain? Because villains have no money. They can burn, kill and rob, but heroes won't. Heroes have their own morals and backbones, and they have a bottom line, so they are heroes. Banner can't be called a hero, but he is not a bad guy in his bones. Although he is invincible, he will not take the initiative to rob money. His ex-girlfriend Betty Ross is not a rich woman, but it is no problem to borrow some money for the trip. Okay. Betty Ross was a little nervous. She thought Banner slept under the same roof with her last night, and he would get up early in the morning and say some love words, such as, "I miss you, I think I still love you, can we continue to be together?" and so on. Unexpectedly, this man was so direct and asked for money. Betty Ross took out all the money in her wallet and stuffed it into Banner's hand and said, "Is this enough? If not, I will drive to the bank to withdraw some more." Banner was naturally embarrassed and said, "Enough, enough, I just borrow a trip fee, and I will pay you back when we meet next time." In fact, the relationship between the two people is nothing at all. Betty Ross looked at Banner affectionately, but Banner did not say what Betty wanted to hear until they walked to the door. Betty is not a gold digger. She has lived in good conditions since she was a child. Even if she does not live with her father now, her work income is enough to support herself. So what she needs is not money and material life, but love. And the only man who can bring a huge impact to her soul is Banner. As for the new boyfriend, he can barely be regarded as a substitute after Banner left. Although it is selfish and shameless to say so, but love is selfish, and no one can avoid it. Like is like, dislike is dislike. Ask yourself, the heart will not deceive you, only worldly pressure will make you deceive yourself. Miss Hermione came to Marvel. She is God, so she will watch the emotional changes between Banner and Betty, but she will not intervene at will, because the future is too long. Even if Miss Hermione lets Banner and Betty together now, what about the future? No one knows what the future holds. Besides, Miss Hermione doesn't want to get involved in their private affairs. Banner decided to leave, and Betty Ross didn't try to stop him. If God hadn't played a trick on her, if she didn't have a new boyfriend, she would have definitely tried to stop him. But now she couldn't. She could only pretend to pull out Banner's shirt that was tucked into his pants, and said like a virtuous wife, "It looks better this way." Chapter 344, Only Plum Blossoms, No People. Banner is a typical science man. He doesn't pay much attention to dressing himself up. He is used to tucking his shirt into his pants, revealing his waistband, which makes him look more relaxed. Girls generally don't like it. They like Iron Man, wearing sunglasses, smoking cigars, and wearing famous brands. Of course, the most important thing is to have money. Just kidding. Betty Ross is really gentle to her ex-boyfriend Banner. and she also helps him to tidy up his clothes. This kind of thing is usually only a loving couple will pay attention to the details. Banner can only smile awkwardly. When facing Betty Ross, he always shows the sincerity of a child. Unfortunately, God is playing tricks on people. Just when Betty Ross could only watch Robert Bruce Banner leave with his emotions, an unexpected situation happened again. It was heard that it was not an ordinary vehicle driving quickly. They are coming. Banner must know that it was not Betty Ross who told the secret, but now all he can do is run away. At this time, Miss Hermione's voice appeared in Banner's ears. "Run over there." Hermione pointed in a direction, and Banner was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that God was so idle and would always be by his side. Or did God know that Banner would be in danger next, so he showed up in time? Betty Ross also understood something, and she hurried to explain. "Banner, it's not me." Banner calmed Betty Ross's emotions and said, "I know they will find me. This is not your problem. Goodbye." Banner hurriedly ran in the direction indicated by God. He was very surprised. That was the school. Why should he go there? But since it was God's instruction, it must have a special meaning. Without further thinking, Banner ran very fast. Theoretically, Betty Ross could not catch up, but Hermione began to exert a force on Betty Ross according to the task she chose, and then Betty Ross was surprised to find that her speed was much faster than usual, which was really magical. She didn't think much about it, thinking that it must be the great potential generated when she was worried about Robert Bruce Banner. She rushed up quickly because she had seen that the group of people who were going to capture Banner were her father's people. If she was also at the scene, she would definitely be able to help, although as a bystander, she felt that a woman without superpowers would actually be making trouble. But since Hermione chose to let Banner burst out a trace of humanity after transforming into the Hulk, it was very important to have Betty Ross at the scene. Now, as a god, Hermione is directing the evolution of the Hulk. As for the opposite side, Hermione did not participate. The reason why Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross and his troops came so quickly was actually because Betty Ross's current boyfriend reported it. He was also very worried about Betty Ross last night and called her dozens of times, but Betty Ross didn't know what to say to her current boyfriend, so she could only turn off the phone. In order to escape, she didn't know that her behavior instead stimulated her current boyfriend's explosive mentality. From his point of view, no man can stand it. After the tip-off, he didn't go very far away. He wanted to see with his own eyes that Betty Ross's father's troops arrested Robert Bruce Banner. He didn't know exactly what crime Robert Bruce Banner had committed, but since the army arrested him on a large scale, it must be a serious crime. Although Betty Ross's current boyfriend felt that he was a mean person, he didn't feel too much burden. He felt that he was doing justice for the heaven. It's impossible for him, as a normal man, to remain indifferent after a fugitive and his girlfriend stayed in the same house for a night. If Betty Ross answered the phone and explained it to him, perhaps it could be saved. There was a huge playground in front, and the students had already been evacuated, because the military knew how terrifying it would be if Banner turned into the Hulk. After Robert Bruce Banner came here according to the guidance of God, he was surrounded by the army, like a turtle in a jar. He really didn't understand why God asked him to run here, in all directions. He would not be surrounded if he ran to other places at will. Banner was not stupid. Thinking back to the last time when God used divine power to stimulate the power of the Hulk in his body, could it be that this time in broad daylight, the purpose of God was to hope that Robert Bruce Banner would continue to do something big? That beautiful girl was really not a kind god. Banner probably guessed it. He was unwilling to transform. He continued to escape, and was finally caught in a place with a glass corridor. Banner, let me go." Betty Ross chased up. When she saw that Robert Bruce Banner had nowhere to escape, she was very worried. At this time, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross came out and ordered his men, "Watch her." Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross was very disappointed with his daughter who sang against him. Hermione began to appear beside Banner, bewitching him with a beautiful voice. "See, your beloved woman is crying because of you. What are you waiting for? Transform." In the movie, Banner was stimulated by anger and transformed, not only by his girlfriend, but also by the tear gas bombs thrown by the enemy, which was enough to make people's temper explode instantly. On this side, Miss Hermione took action, and the power of magic stimulated Robert Bruce Banner's blood, and he instantly began to transform into a beast. The whole body turned green and the body size became very large. Boom! Banner broke through the glass and jumped directly from midair, like a boulder falling, and the ground around was shaking. The soldiers around were all stunned, as Emil Bronsky, who had fought with the Hulk last time, successfully injected the super soldier serum. During this period, his strength and physical limits have been greatly changed. Hulk, come on, let's fight in an upright manner. Igor Karkaroff had a fierce look on his face and was very fast, like a cheetah. His companions were all stunned. They didn't expect Igor Karkaroff to be so fierce. The Hulk also noticed something was wrong, but he was in the process of using his ultimate move, and his invincible state was no joke. Boom! With just one kick, he stepped directly on Igor Karkaroff's body. In an instant, Igor Karkaroff, who was just like a cheetah, turned into a ball and flew backwards. His back hit a giant tree hard, and he fainted on the spot. Not a single bone in his body was intact. It was simply an instant kill. In an instant, all the soldiers dared not move forward, and the Hulk banner roared to the sky like a giant beast like King Kong, with a deafening sound. Betty Ross, who had been controlled, was also stunned. She didn't expect that the thin-looking Robert Bruce Banner would be so terrifying after the transformation. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross frowned and was ecstatic. The stronger Banner is, the more he wants him. You know, Banner was just a scientist before, not a warrior. Because of the gamma ray mutation, he can be so powerful. If an army of Hulks can be mass-produced, then this army will be invincible. Fire! Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross began to give orders, and countless bullets flew towards Banner. However, the bullets hit Banner like hitting a steel plate, and all were bounced away. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345 God Assists. The bullet further angered Banner the Hulk. He rushed over violently, and everything that blocked him was destroyed in an instant. Only wreckage remained at the scene. The invincibility of the Hulk was confirmed again. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross was not in a panic. He came prepared this time. With a wave of his hand, several specially equipped vehicles drove over. In front of the military vehicle was a huge loudspeaker. Is this going to be a live disco? Of course not. This is a sonic cannon weapon, specially designed to deal with enemies that ordinary hot weapons cannot take down. Banner, who turned into the Hulk, has lost his mind at this moment. He is like a beast going down the mountain to hunt. He rushes around and is invincible. However, when the sonic weapon is opened at the same time, the terrifying sound wave directly blows Banner's huge body away. Banner seems to be in pain. As the Hulk, he seems to have the same weakness as Venom, and is afraid of sonic attacks. Miss Hermione took action. She used a magic to let the soldiers release Betty Ross from control. Betty was freed and she quickly rushed to the front. Please let him go. He has never done anything bad. For Banner, Betty Ross is willing to plead with her father Thaddeus Ross. Thaddeus Ross's face is extremely ugly. He didn't even frown when the super soldier Emil Bronsky, whom he trained, was kicked away. At this moment, the father-daughter relationship is deep, and he can't pretend to be indifferent. Betty, I warn you, if you are not my daughter, you should still be in prison now. Thaddeus Ross is really angry, and at the same time he wants to blame his men for not being able to take care of a weak woman who is powerless. But now the focus is on Banner, and Banner must be caught today. God, what a wonderful ability. He must not let it disappear in front of his eyes. Take out the walkie-talkie and increase the strength of the sonic attack. In the original play, Robert Bruce Banner was furious because of his girlfriend several times. Here, Hermione saw that the plot didn't match her arrangement, so she had no choice but to use magic to stimulate Banner secretly, causing his anger to soar. With a roar, Banner finally resisted the sound wave. After all, he was not Venom, he was the invincible Hulk. A punch smashed the sound wave launcher car, and another one was smashed in the rumble. Seeing that Banner was invincible, almost nothing could stop him. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross had a gloomy face. He picked up the walkie-talkie and issued the final order. He saw the armed helicopter flying over and began to ruthlessly strafe the ground from the air. Miss Hermione finally used her big move. She arranged for Betty Ross to rush directly in front of Banner. Miss Betty was confused. She was indeed proactive in the original play, but here, she didn't want to. No, you want to. Miss Hermione is so tough, because her mission option is to stimulate the human side of Banner. Her magic is indeed magical, but the final form of the Hulk still depends on Banner's own control. This step must rely on him. No, cease fire. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross could never have imagined that his woman would sacrifice her life for a monster. He tried his best to stop the tragedy, but it was too late. The bullets from the helicopters were pouring down like they were free, accompanied by missile explosions. Fortunately, the field here was wide and the strikes were accurate, so no passers-by were injured. Banner, wake up quickly, you have to protect your girlfriend with your body. Hermione assisted with almost 99% probability, successfully awakening the consciousness of the Hulk. Banner. After becoming the Hulk several times, this was the first time that Banner was so conscious. The Hulk used to vent his temper in a rage, but this time was different. The Hulk's brain consciousness successfully controlled his body. He did not do anything to hurt Betty Ross. Instead, he listened to the divine assistance of Hermione and protected Betty Ross with his huge body. Boom, boom, artillery fire exploded all around. Although the Hulk's body is huge, it is almost impossible to protect Betty Ross completely without any harm, unless it is in the movie, because Betty Ross still has hands and feet exposed. The dense bullets are enough to make her hands and feet into a sieve. Fortunately, there is the goddess Hermione who assists with God. She has already put on the Magneto bracelet. With a wave of her hand in invisibility, the bullets that attacked Betty Ross's hands and feet were directly fixed when others could hardly notice. If the scene is discovered by outsiders, it will definitely feel very magical. Even with God's assistance and Banner's active protection, the power of the explosion still stunned Betty Ross. Banner thought he had not protected his ex-girlfriend well. He was angry and directly pulled off the car door, threw the car door into the air like a dart, and accurately hit the armed helicopter. Boom! The fire exploded in the air, and everyone around was stunned. Even if the ordinary people here have been evacuated, there will still be people who are not afraid of death holding their mobile phones and taking pictures from a distance. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross thought his daughter was killed in the explosion and was very sad. At the same time, the super soldier, Emil Bronsky, was killed on the spot, and the ultrasonic attack was also destroyed. The air fire suppression also failed, and his daughter was lost. It can be said that this operation failed utterly. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross no longer had the mind to continue fighting, and the invincible Hulk had a clear consciousness for the first time. He knew that he was the Hulk now, and this explosive power did not make the Hulk go on a killing spree. All his actions just now were for self-protection. Since the enemy stopped the exchange of fire, Banner could not fight back. He hugged his girlfriend in pain, and his girlfriend Betty Ross's arms drooped, and then ran away like a giant. There is a primeval forest in the city, which is not small in area. Banner took Betty Ross and fled into it. After entering the forest, Thaddeus Ross did not send anyone to chase. To be honest, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross did not expect that such a terrifying Hulk would have a human side. He also saw the scene where he crawled down to protect his daughter. Of course, he knew that Banner liked his daughter. If he had not been selfish and deceived his future son-in-law to do gamma bomb research, she might have a child now. Today's tragedy was created by Thaddeus Ross. However, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross did not regret it. He was not in the position and did not seek his job. His mission was to research the strongest warrior on land. Banner had undoubtedly succeeded, but this brat refused to cooperate. He had been on the run for several years, and Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross had not yet succeeded in capturing him. In the primeval forest in the city, it was raining heavily, just like Betty Ross and Robert Bruce Banner met in the rain last night. There were no outsiders around, and the goddess Hermione appeared, with her graceful figure and charming clothes, suspended in the air, and the rain fell around her obediently. She is not dead. You don't have to be sad. Chapter 346. From the first meeting to the end of life, the goddess's first words were to reassure Banner. Banner, who was still in the Hulk state, seemed to have lost his ability to express himself verbally. Although he was thick-skinned and tough, this did not mean that he could be close to perfection. In fact, he was not perfect at all. You don't have to speak, just listen to me. Take Betty Ross to a safe place first. The Hulk certainly understood, but he wanted to say, "You are God. You should change me back so that I can take Betty Ross to stay in a hotel." But in the Hulk state, Banner also had a clear consciousness for the first time. In the original play, his consciousness was not clear. With the help of God, it was naturally much better, but he still couldn't speak. Option 1. Let the Hulk and Betty Ross live in the wild, so that the two of them have the feeling of escaping for their lives, and complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Option 2. Let Banner return to the state of ordinary people, and complete the task to reward one smartwatch. Option 3. Use magic to turn Banner and Betty Ross into wild boars and wolves, and let them perform a fantasy drama in which wild boars fall in love with wolves. One brush reward for completing the task. Without a doubt, the most valuable one is option 1. For the rest, the boar falling in love with the wolf is a bit interesting, but the reward is too little, and the brush is the kind used to paint walls, which is too perfunctory. The heavy rain was still falling. Under the guidance of Ms. Hermione, Robert Bruce Banner came to a cave with Betty Ross in his arms. The cave was very low, and Banner would hit his head in the Hulk state. The pain would cause his anger value, and he would be irritable. Fortunately, for the beloved woman in his arms, he endured it. In the original play, Betty Ross woke up and said something to Banner in the Hulk state. Although Banner could not speak for the time being in the Hulk state, he understood his ex-girlfriend's words. Here, Betty Ross has been in a coma. Miss Hermione stood up and spoke to Banner. "I'll get you 2 quilts. You and Betty Ross can stay here tonight." The Hulk gestured with his hands and feet, as if he wanted to say something, but in his Hulk state, his tongue was numb and he couldn't speak at all. He could only roar in anger. "I know what you are worried about. The people chasing you won't come in. They have seen your strength again. They know that you are almost invincible in the Hulk state. They won't let their men come to die again." Hermione continued. "Betty Ross just fainted. There is nothing serious. She will wake up the next day." Just when the Hulk really began to feel relieved, the weather outside was not good. A terrifying thunder and lightning broke out, crackling, and the lightning also hit the boulders outside, dazzling and arrogant. Ouch! The Hulk couldn't stand this provocation. He rushed out in anger and roared at the sky. The terrifying power seemed to bypass the lightning at that moment. Hermione flew out, and as a god, she said to the Hulk, "What you need to do now is to control this power. You should not be swayed by emotions." Miss Hermione's voice was not loud, but it was like a magic sound that pierced his ears and rippled in the depths of the Hulk's soul. Finally, the Hulk's anger was successfully resolved, and he sat back. At this time, the system also prompted that the task was completed, and Hermione stopped talking and disappeared directly. The Hulk did not stop him, although he felt that he understood God. He did not like being arranged by God like this. He originally wanted to get rid of the Hulk state. He was a normal scientist. He did not want to be a monster. He also hated war. He did not like the current situation. However, God's arrangement was to let him adapt to his transformation step by step, and it seemed to deliberately stimulate his fighting, so he did not completely respect God. He did not like God's choice. If the Hulk Banner knew that God could actually turn him into a wild boar, I don't know how he would feel. He thought that God did not follow his mind, but God had been good enough to him. If God really wanted to punish him, then he would be worse off than dead. You think you are in the abyss, but in fact, The real abyss is in the 18 levels of hell, which you have never seen. Hermione left the Hulk and Betty Ross directly in the wild, and she was not worried. After all, she was God, not Banner's nanny. She did what she could, and she couldn't always be around Banner. During the day at Hogwarts, the sun was very bright. There was no artillery fire here, and the wizards didn't even have a pistol. In fact, according to the speed of releasing spells, it was not as good as a pistol. Maybe the wizard world was too corrupt and unwilling to accept the weapons developed by the Muggle world. Anyway, the Muggles would not attack Hogwarts, so it was fine. If Hermione really popularized guns in the wizard world, it would be a chaos in the world. Wizards would take planes, wizards would carry rocket launchers, and wizards would drive tanks. That scene would be too exciting. The students passing by didn't know what the beautiful Miss Hermione was thinking, nor did they know that Hermione actually came back from Marvel after eating melons. Beside the clear lake, Harry Potter is not completely ignored now, at least Neville won't. Neville handed a unique magic book to Harry. The magical aquatic plants in the Highland Lakes were given to me by Moody on the day we had tea. Neville answered like this. He and Mad-Eye Moody had tea together after the defense against the dark arts professor scared Neville in the first class. Now he thinks this book may be helpful to Harry. Neville doesn't care whether Harry cheated to become a champion of the Triwizard Tournament or was framed by others. These are not important because it has become a fact. Next, how to face it is more important. Thank you. Harry just finished speaking, and a few people came down from the hillside by the lake. In the original play, it was Ron and Hermione, and Ron's sister. Here there are only Ron and his sister Ginny Weasley, because Ron wanted to find Hermione, but couldn't find her at all. Since Hermione mastered the door key and the time and space gate, her way of traveling has become more mysterious. Unless Hermione wants to show up, it is very difficult for others to find her. Ginny Weasley used to admire Harry Potter, and now she has fallen in love with the beautiful young lady Hermione. But Miss Hermione looks approachable, but when you get close to her, there is always an invisible and intangible mysterious barrier, as if no one can really understand Miss Hermione. So over time, Ginny Weasley's obsession with Miss Hermione gradually calmed down a lot. At this moment, facing the big boy Harry Potter who she once liked, Ginny Weasley is still a little nervous. Harry, Ron asked me to tell you that Seamus told Ron that Dean heard from Parvati that Hagrid is looking for you. Not bad. This tongue-twisting line, Ginny Weasley actually said it completely. In the original play, this passage was said by Miss Hermione. Ron couldn't find Hermione to do it for him, so he had to trouble his sister. Because Ron and Harry had a falling out not long after the start of school this year, neither of them wants to talk to each other. But there is something important that needs to be communicated, so they can only ask others to help pass the message. Miss Hermione is actually right next to them, but she is invisible. Seeing this scene, she also secretly felt amused. New book, please support. Thank you everyone. Chapter 347 Trivial. Harry looked at Ginny Weasley in front of him, and was a little confused by her somewhat convoluted words. What? Ginny Weasley was also very smart, and knew to grasp the key points to explain. Hagrid wants to see you. Harry also understood, and he said to Ginny Weasley, you can tell Ron. In the original play, Miss Hermione was furious when she heard this, but Ginny Weasley here did not. She replied gently, if you have anything, you can tell Ron in person. Harry gave up. In fact, he also wanted to ease the relationship between him and Ron. But the trivial things in life are often the root of many conflicts. The onlookers are clear, and the parties are confused. From the outside, they think that Harry and Ron are too childish, but everyone is the same. After seeing that his sister Ginny Weasley successfully completed the task she assigned, Ron left with satisfaction. From beginning to end, he did not say a word to Harry. Harry did not speak either. It was not until Neville left that Ms. Hermione revealed her true form and appeared beside Harry Potter. Harry smiled bitterly and said, Hermione, you like to be invisible more and more recently. Hermione smiled and did not answer the question. In fact, she had always been invisible and did many things, but Harry Potter didn't know about it. However, there was no point in talking about this matter, so it was better not to say it. As for why Hermione would do some abnormal things now, this is very normal. Even if everyone has two faces, it is impossible to completely isolate them, especially when the changes before and after are too big. The days of becoming a god in Marvel are really too long. If Hermione has no influence at all in Hogwarts, it would be too terrible. She is not such a terrible person, and she always shows a trace of humanity. Harry, are you going to see Hagrid next? Harry knew that the invisible Hermione should have heard what Ginny Weasley said just now, and he nodded. I don't know what Hagrid wants me to do, Hermione said. Go ahead, I'll be there. Harry nodded with emotion. Even when he couldn't see Hermione, she might still be as elusive as before. Although he felt that he couldn't see through Ms. Hermione, one thing remained unchanged, that is, he could always believe that Hermione was always on his side. Night began to fall. Miss Hermione guessed that her system would let her go to Harry and Hagrid, but she didn't expect that the task from Marvel would arrive first. Option 1. Travel through Marvel to find Emil Blonsky, use magic potion to make him stronger, and complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, Villain, +1. Option 2. Travel through Marvel, go to Iron Man to play games, require at least one arcade battle, and complete the task to reward one lollipop. Option 3. Travel through Marvel to help the Hulk Banner find Mr. Blue, and complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Undoubtedly, it's another 3 choice. When facing this kind of question, there is no need to think too much. The answer is obvious. Emil Blonsky can be said to be a villain. Miss Hermione did not forcibly intervene and kill him in advance, which is already a manifestation of Hermione's unwillingness to participate too much. Now not only does she not solve the villain, but she also helps the villain to become stronger. Forget it. It's good to play games with Iron Man, but the reward is too little. Let's go to Banner. Miss Hermione used the door key to open the door of time and space. After successfully crossing Marvel, she didn't expect that she would accidentally pick up something good as soon as her feet landed. A box of cash, all US dollars. It is very common to pick up gold and silver jewelry, but it is the first time to pick up a box of cash directly. Miss Hermione did not hesitate and took it directly. Otherwise it would not be wonderful if this box of cash appeared in her pocket the next day. No matter how powerful Miss Hermione is now, it is still a very happy thing to be able to pick up money. Banner spent last night in the cave with his ex-girlfriend. Betty Ross couldn't believe it when she woke up. The Hulk was so detailed and prepared a quilt. The Hulk did not explain that the quilt was given by God. What God did was indeed hard to guess. The two packed up and went to the city together, found a hotel to rest temporarily, and change clothes. By the way, Robert Bruce Banner was experienced. He asked Betty Ross to change his mobile phone and everything that could find her location. Betty Ross did not raise any questions and obeyed Banner's arrangements completely. In the original play, Banner did not have a human side. Perhaps he was influenced by God, and he asked more questions. In fact, you are implicated by me. You don't have to follow me in the next escape. After experiencing life and death yesterday, Betty Ross looked at Banner's eyes emotionally and said, "Don't you understand my feelings for you now?" Robert Bruce Banner in the original play was shameless and slept with Betty Ross directly. Here, because of the influence of the butterfly effect, Banner did not do this. He would not give Betty Ross any hope before his body recovered, because the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. As a man, he has hurt Betty Ross countless times, and he can't go on like this. But, now that Betty Ross stays with him, not only will Betty suffer with him, but this is secondary. The most important thing is that she is just a mortal, and following her will become a burden. But when Banner saw Betty Ross's emotional eyes, he couldn't bear to drive her away in the end. After all, this is a popcorn movie, not a third-rate bloody love drama that is heartless and entangled. Well, let's go find Mr. Lan now, and hope that the gamma-ray research data this time will help him. Banner trusts Mr. Lan very much. Betty Ross also knows some specifics. She rented a car. After the two got in the car, Betty Ross asked, "We are about to find a way to solve your physical condition. Why do you seem unhappy?" Indeed, Banner at this moment is worried about Banner in the original play. Banner looked out the window and sighed. I have a feeling that our trip may not go smoothly. Banner thought of the beautiful God. In his mind, God's will represents the way of heaven. God never intended to let Robert Bruce Banner completely recover to be an ordinary person, and this time, he would most likely return in vain to find Mr. Blue. However, after years of hard work, he and Mr. Blue have been studying so much. Banner is unwilling to give up the last hope, and if Banner cannot recover his identity as an ordinary person, then he cannot give Betty Ross true happiness, that is for sure. Therefore, Banner here seems to know his future fate in advance, so he will behave so negatively. When the car drove onto the highway, there was a large area of traffic jam in front. Robert Bruce Banner was very alert. He got out of the car immediately to check, and his face suddenly changed. It turned out that the reason for the traffic jam was that the road ahead had been closed, and every passing car had to be routinely checked. Chapter 348 Dragon. Banner is invincible in the Hulk state, but he doesn't want to kill people. The best way is to leave here quickly. Betty Ross also noticed something strange. She quickly pulled Banner down the driveway. Let's take another way to leave. Banner nodded, and at the same time he felt a little guilty. Betty, let you suffer with me. Betty Ross smiled and said, what nonsense are you talking about? You don't know how happy I am to be with you now. Then he burst into tears and said, don't leave me casually next time. Banner was also very heavy in his heart. In fact, if God didn't appear, Banner didn't need so many inner dramas, because he knew nothing about the future. He just had to keep his head down and rush forward. But now it's different, because of Hermione's appearance several times. Banner, no matter how stupid he was, felt that as the Hulk, it seemed to be destined by heaven. He was chosen as the spokesperson of God, and a superhero to maintain world peace, although he always wanted to be an ordinary person in his heart. But, what God arranged, can he, a mere mortal, control? Betty Ross didn't think so much. She was happy enough to be by the side of her beloved now. As the saying goes, the root of most human troubles actually comes from thinking too much. If you can live like a sand sculpture every day, you will naturally have fewer troubles. If you don't have anything to worry about, it will be a good time in the world. Betty Ross still has some effect. She actually brought Robert Bruce Banner to the dock. There are many black yachts here, the kind that have not been registered or have passed the annual inspection, and they can't be found. The two negotiated the price with the boss and left by boat. In fact, what Banner and Betty Ross didn't know was that there were surveillance cameras all the way. When they abandoned the car and ran away, they were already discovered. A large number of cars came to surround Banner, and they would rather catch the wrong person than let him go. However, Miss Hermione, who has been invisible, is not eating for free. She did not use magic, but changed away, sharing in contact lenses. Although magic is also very convenient, just like everyone likes to play different heroes in the game, try a different feeling. The illusion of the Sharingan is also very useful. The people who came to capture Banner and Betty Ross returned the same way. Miss Hermione clapped her hands, took a cup of milk tea, and while drinking, she followed Banner and Betty Ross to find the Mr. Blue. At this moment, in the camp opposite to the Hulk, Emil Bronsky, who was injected with super soldier serum, and was still killed by the Hulk in 1 second, did not die even without the help of the goddess Miss Hermione, even if the bones of the whole body were broken. In a short period of time, the powerful heart continued to transport superpowers to the body, achieving super-fast repair. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross was also stunned when he saw this scene. He vaguely had a bad feeling. Emil Bronsky's strength seemed to be beyond control. Is the second Hulk coming? When Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross came to the hospital and visited Emil Bronsky, he asked, "How do you feel?" Emil Bronsky clenched his fists, and the fighting consciousness in his body was higher than ever before, saying, "I'm ashamed. I want to continue fighting him." Thaddeus Ross nodded. "You should take good care of yourself, and you will have a chance." In fact, even though he failed to capture the Hulk twice, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross did not give up, but was full of confidence. He had summed up the key to victory through the experience of the previous two failures. Moreover, The computer of Robert Bruce Banner that they had seized before had cracked the call between Banner and Mr. Blue, and Banner did not know about this at the moment. As long as he contacted Mr. Blue again, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross would know it immediately. Moreover, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross has also developed a new plan for the next capture, and this time it is guaranteed to be foolproof. Miss Hermione did not plan to return to Hogwarts. In the past, traveling through Marvel had the feeling of running away from home on a business trip, and returning to Hogwarts was the destination, but after staying in the Marvel world for a long time, I got used to it. In fact, she regarded herself as a god here, and felt freer and more comfortable. In addition to the system option tasks, she herself did not like to meddle in other people's affairs. This non-nosy character was very good, and she could be free and unrestrained. What Hermione did not expect was that there were new tasks at Hogwarts. Option 1. Travel through Hogwarts, go to see the dragon with Harry, and complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Option 2. Travel through Hogwarts, be invisible and beat up Professor Snape, complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, Strength, +1. Option 3. Travel through Hogwarts, find Harry and Ron, and find a way to reconcile the relationship between the two. Complete the task to reward 1 ice cream. Hermione found that although she had grown up a lot in Hogwarts, the systems full of malice towards Professor Snape seemed to have never diminished. Although Hermione sometimes likes to make fun of Professor Snape, if there is no system option task to tease her, a well-behaved and sensible lady like Hermione will naturally not do such impolite things. Now, Professor Snape did not provoke her. Hermione has grown up, and naturally she will not tease Professor Snape like a child. Option 3. It's not that I can't do it, but Hermione is afraid of trouble. Even if she doesn't have to do anything about the small fights between Harry and Ron, after a long time, when the truth comes out, the problem will naturally be solved. Why should she cause trouble for herself? Moreover, if Hermione changes too much of the original plot, it will cause a butterfly effect, which is really not worth the loss. So considering all factors, it is better to travel back to accompany Harry to see the dragon. This is not the first time I have seen the dragon creature in Hogwarts. Hagrid secretly raised one before, and it was quite cute. But for Hermione, any pet is a husky. It looks cute when others raise it, but it's not worth it if you raise it yourself. Too troublesome. Miss Hermione doesn't want to be a shit shoveler. Using the portkey, Miss Hermione opened the door of time and space and quickly returned to Hogwarts. It was not dark yet, and Hermione saw Harry in the Hogwarts Great Hall, also known as the canteen. Most of the teachers and students of Hogwarts have to come here for dinner. Harry also found Hagrid, who told him to meet secretly in the dark forest at night. Back then, because Harry, Ron and Hermione secretly ran out at night, Gryffindor was deducted 150 points, 50 points each. Now, they can go out at night blatantly. Sure enough, this is the difference between an old hand and a newbie. Hagrid knew that Harry had an invisibility cloak, and Harry also had a marauder's map. It was too easy for him to sneak out alone at night. Night fell, and the sky was full of stars. It was a good night. Invisible Harry ran out of Hogwarts Castle skillfully and met Hagrid at the agreed place. Harry actually guessed that Miss Hermione followed, but Hermione was too mysterious. When she was invisible, he couldn't detect it at all. Harry didn't want Hagrid to misunderstand, so he didn't try to call Hermione. Chapter 349 Want to eat dragon meat. Hermione has indeed been following Harry all the time, mainly for the mission. If it weren't for the mission, she wouldn't have come. It's such a nice night. Aren't you uncomfortable sleeping? What's there to see about dragons? You can't eat them. Why did you think of eating them? Do I want to eat dragon meat? In the dark forest at night, because of the different risk factors, the surrounding atmosphere is also different. Hagrid and Harry walked side by side. Did you bring your father's invisibility cloak? Hagrid asked. Yes, I brought it. Harry used the invisibility cloak when he went out at night. Hagrid, where are we going? You'll know in a moment. You have to look carefully. This is very important. Hagrid was also looking forward to taking Harry to see the dragon next. After all, sharing is a very noble and unique emotion, and it has a charm that other things cannot match. Hagrid has seen many dragons and doesn't have too many special feelings, but if he shares this with people who haven't seen it, it will be very meaningful. At this time, Harry didn't know that Hagrid would take him to see the dragon next. He thought that Hagrid's meaning for him to look carefully next was to look carefully at the changes around Hagrid. "Why are you wearing flowers?" Harry suddenly realized that Hagrid was indeed a little different tonight. He was wearing flowers, which was very strange. Then he was surprised. "Hagrid, have you combed your hair?" Not only did he wear flowers, but he also combed all his hair into a big back, which really looked very unusual. Hagrid was thick-skinned, and he was not embarrassed. He replied, "I cleaned it up." "Sometimes you can dress up like this." Harry thought to himself, "Why should I dress up?" At this time, the roar of a dragon came from not far away. The roar of a dragon is indeed very unique, completely different from that of ordinary beasts, but it can be heard at one ear. "Hagrid." Someone called Hagrid's name, and the voice seemed a little familiar, but it was a little unclear whether it was a male or female voice. "Hurry up and put on the invisibility cloak." Hagrid didn't want the other party to know that he was carrying a small one. Harry didn't complain, so he quickly put it on. Hagrid held the lamp, lowered his head to check his outfit, and after making sure there was nothing wrong, he quickly went over. "Good evening, Hagrid. I thought you wouldn't come. I thought you had forgotten me." "Oh my God." When Harry saw the other person, he was so surprised that he couldn't speak. Deep in the dark forest, the person who was waiting for Hagrid and asked Hagrid, who usually didn't pay attention to his words, to dress himself up was actually the headmistress of Buke's Batons. "So these two are actually having an affair?" Hermione, who was also invisible, saw it and thought it was interesting to eat the melon. However, there is still an essential difference between her and Harry. Harry can wear an invisibility cloak and eat melon quietly, but Miss Hermione is different. It's hard to be a worker. A transparent box of options popped up in front of Ms. Hermione. Option 1. Kick Harry Potter out and create opportunities for Hagrid and Madame Maxime. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, marriage, +1. Option 2. What kind of relationship is it? I haven't even had one yet. All relationships should be broken up immediately to destroy Hagrid and Madame Maxime. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, destruction, +1. Option 3. There are so many things to do. Why do you care about so many trivial matters? Silence is golden. Complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Fortunately, Miss Hermione is pure and innocent, and she doesn't have any special hobbies, so she doesn't choose option 1 or option 2. She wants to do option 3. When Miss Hermione faced the choice, Hagrid and Madame Maxime began to be affectionate with each other. "How could I forget you, Hagrid said with unprecedented affection. Sure enough, men are all big pigs. When facing love, they will become like a different person. After hearing what Hagrid said, the invisible Harry couldn't help sticking out his tongue and felt disgusted. "What do you want to show me? When we were talking just now, you seemed so excited." Madame Maxime also felt good about herself. Although she was not very beautiful, the lover's eyes are beautiful. In Hagrid's eyes, Madame Maxime, who also has a giant body, is the most beautiful. Hagrid said seriously, "You will not regret it, believe me." Not far away, the roar of the dragon came again. As for Ms. Hermione, since she did nothing, the system prompts, "Congratulations on completing option 3, reward basic attribute +1. Sure enough, if you come to join in the fun in the middle of the night without sleeping, there must be some benefits, otherwise, who would come? The dragon's cry attracted everyone. As he walked slowly forward, he saw many people surrounding the square cage containing the dragon. It was very lively. The dragon could also spit out flames, which looked extremely dangerous and terrifying. Harry was stunned. Madame Maxime was indeed a person who had seen the world. She said, "Can we get closer?" Without waiting for Hagrid to answer, Madame Maxime went forward alone. It was also a pleasant thing to watch the Western Dragon up close. Harry saw that Madame Maxime could not see him, but just showed a head. His body was still invisible, and a head was suspended in the air. It was also very strange to look at it at night. It's a dragon. This is the first project. Is it true? Harry was quite smart and knew that Hagrid would not bring him to see the dragon for no reason. Hagrid seemed to see Harry's fear, and he said, "Come on, Harry, dragons aren't as scary as people think." That's what he said, but that was for Hagrid. No magical beast was scary to Hagrid, but a giant dragon's flame suddenly spurted out, setting all the small branches around Hagrid on fire. Awesome. Although I must admit that the horn-tailed dragon was extremely vicious. Ron almost fainted when he saw it. Hagrid continued. Harry was very scared. The flames just now made his face hot, because the temperature of the flames was very high. If he had been closer just now, he would have burned him. Ron was here? Harry exclaimed. Of course, his brother Charlie brought the dragon from Romania. Didn't Ron tell you? Hagrid asked back. Harry shook his head, feeling extremely disappointed. It seemed that the relationship between him and Ron was really over. He didn't say anything. Hagrid also found that there seemed to be some problems between Harry and Ron this year, but Hagrid didn't have many friends, and he didn't know how to deal with the conflict between Harry and Ron. As for Ms. Hermione, the system options did not let her go and began to issue new tasks. Option 1. Dragon meat must be delicious. Go up and kill one, grill it, whole stew it and taste it. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, Gourmet, +1. Option 2. Check the information. Successfully contract a giant dragon in the ancient dragon language. Completing the task will reward you with basic attributes +1. Option 3. It's late, let's go home and take a shower and sleep. Completing the task will reward you with a set of comfortable pajamas. Although option 2, which can be seen with the naked eye, is the most valuable, it may be difficult to contract a dragon, and the dragons here are used in the Triwizard Tournament later. If Hermione contracts one, there will be one less, which will affect the subsequent competitions. After thinking about it, it's better to choose option 3. It's also good to take a shower and sleep for beauty. As for option 1, eating dragon meat, if there is ready-made dragon meat, Miss Hermione doesn't mind trying it, but if she has to slaughter and cook it by herself, then forget it. Chapter 350 The heroes of the world come from our generation. Just like ordinary people eating chicken, if they are forced to kill and cook it, they may start to dislike the trouble and give up. At this moment, Miss Hermione is eating dragon meat. It is true that she is a foodie. As a beautiful girl who loves food, Hermione admits it. But she has not yet reached the point where she drools when she sees a live dragon. For ordinary people, they may drool when they see delicious food, big fish and meat, roasted chicken and roasted chicken wings when they are hungry. But if they see a lively fish and a live chicken with its teeth bared, they will definitely not drool. Normal people. Abnormal is another story. Similarly, Miss Hermione will definitely not kill a dragon for a bite of dragon meat. This is the same concept as contracting the dragon, although if you successfully contract a dragon, then Miss Hermione will be a dragon warrior in the future. No, a great wizard riding a dragon, which is much more handsome and noble than Voldemort who can only speak snake language. There is still a fundamental difference between snakes and dragons, but if it is too troublesome, forget it. Congratulations on completing option 3, and you will be rewarded with a set of comfortable pajamas. As a person, you should learn to lower your unrealistic fantasies and be more practical. It is not bad to have a new set of pajamas and sleep comfortably. After all, there are still countless people in this world who are tortured because they cannot sleep comfortably. Be content with what you have. Miss Hermione has always been an optimistic beauty. She always sighs about what she has, and never feels sad about what she has lost. Early the next morning, Miss Hermione knew that there would definitely be new stories in Hogwarts. However, the system has already started to prompt that she will go on a business trip to the Marvel world to be the savior. Let's go. Hermione did not hesitate too much. She remembered that the last time she was in Marvel, Emil Blonsky did not die. Instead, he recovered quickly because of the super soldier serum, and the combat gene in his body became more excited because of the Hulk. He gradually became a berserker who only wanted to win from a top special forces soldier. As for Robert Bruce Banner, He went to see Mr. Blue with his ex-girlfriend. Even though the appearance of God made Banner more pessimistic, he had tried for so many years. Even if he failed, he had to take the last step. After all, he still wanted to be with Betty Ross in the body of an ordinary person. If he had always been the blood of the Hulk, then he would never be happy with Betty Ross. As long as Banner got excited, his body would mutate, which would be very scary. It is very likely that he would kill his ex-girlfriend by mistake. As a scientist in his previous life, Banner would definitely not let such a bad result become a reality. Mr. Blue is not a good guy here either. In the original movie, due to copyright issues and the failure of the movie box office, The Incredible Hulk 2 inches was not released for a long time. Therefore, Mr. Blue, a villain with a long foreshadowing, did not have the opportunity to play later. Butterfly effect. If Miss Hermione, as God, changed a little, she might not be able to be awesome in the movie. Here, Mr. Blue would have a chance. It depends on how the system options are released. Miss Hermione will definitely not take the initiative to change. She is so cautious and afraid of trouble. After traveling to Marvel, Miss Hermione is somewhat familiar with the air here, in Hogwarts, because of her identity. Miss Hermione walks on her legs most of the time as long as she is not invisible. You can't just float around Hogwarts all day long. In that ancient castle, only ghosts can float around. But it's different in the Marvel world. There is no suppression of the identity of a Hogwarts student here, and there is no need to worry about being seen by familiar people. Hermione is completely free. Her magic is free to do whatever she wants, so most of the time, even if she is not invisible, she is flying in the air. There is a kind of heroic feeling. The world's heroes come from my generation. Miss Hermione is narcissistic, then go to the scene of the crime, which is the mission site. This is very common in online role-playing games. That is, running the map, then triggering tasks, solving problems, and getting rewards. Miss Hermione traveled through time and space, and shuttled between the two worlds at will, just like playing a large-scale online game. It's just that the rewards and deaths here are real. So Miss Hermione will certainly be more cautious in doing things. Mr. Blue is also a professor in a university and a scientist. Of course, the circle of scientists is all scientists. Just like in the previous movie Iron Man, the circle of the playboy second-generation Tony Stark is all rich supermodels and beauties. Different circles, different people know. Although Robert Bruce Banner has mutated, he always thinks that he is not a Hulk berserker, but a scientist who will change because of emotions. Hello, Mr. Blue. Banner and his girlfriend Betty Ross directly met Mr. Blue, Dr. Samuel Stern, whose identity in the movie and comics is slightly different. In the comics, he is a high school dropout and a slow thinker. In the movie, he is a famous scientist like Robert Bruce Banner. Although the fields of research are different, they are very intelligent and have their own unique insights in their own fields. Who are you? Mr. Lan looked at the two people in front of him. Outsiders didn't know he was Mr. Lan at all. He was either an agent or… Robert Bruce Banner didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "I'm Mr. Green." The rest doesn't need to be explained at all. As a private netizen for many years, everything is self-explanatory. "Oh my God, you look different from what I imagined," Mr. Lan exclaimed immediately. "I thought you would be a big man with muscles all over your body." Mr. Lan was more excited than Robert Bruce Banner, because Mr. Lan is an evil doctor. He is different from Banner. Banner is a normal psychological scientist. His scientific research is exploration and benefiting mankind. But, Mr. Lan is different. He may have the same philosophy, but he still has selfishness. He didn't have the opportunity to infinitely magnify his selfishness before. Just like ordinary people generally don't have the opportunity to embezzle and pervert the law, but if he is given power and money, perhaps he will have a great chance of depravity. The same is true for Mr. Lan. When he first met Mr. Green, he thought the other party was a psychopath with paranoia, but when he received the first tube of blood sent by Mr. Liu, Mr. Lan was completely stunned. Another unprecedented kind of mutation knowledge that he had never touched or imagined before broke into his scientific world. Mr. Blue was ecstatic. Robert Bruce Banner was looking forward to meeting Mr. Blue, so he was doubly looking forward to seeing Mr. Green in person. Robert Bruce Banner didn't know at this moment that Mr. Blue had evil hidden deep in his heart. He explained, "Although I look thin now, but you know, let's find a place where no one is around to talk." Okay, I'll take you to my private laboratory." Mr. Blue was super excited. Betty Ross could also see that this, Mr. Blue, might really have real talent, because doctors with weird personalities and high academic status are usually very capable. Of course, some scum who seek fame and reputation are also excluded. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.